Chapter 1320. It was the same now. Tang Ao wouldn't believe that Shi Yun didn't have any ulterior motives towards them. However, Tang Ao still didn't know why Shi Yun, a former muddy heavenly stage powerhouse, was hiding in a small place like Qin Yun's village. Regarding the hidden dragon crypt, Tang Ao felt that the Evergreen Valley was the only place that he didn't understand enough. In other words, if Shi Yun had any ulterior motives here, it would definitely be something in the Evergreen Valley. However, Tang Ao couldn't understand why a low-level place like the Flying Star Continent would have something that could attract a muddy heavenly stage powerhouse like Shi Yun. Moreover, Tang Ao couldn't figure out how Shi Yun ended up in the Flying Star Continent. According to Tang Ao's understanding, a casual punch from a muddy heavenly stage powerhouse like Shi Yun was not something that the Flying Star Continent could withstand. There were too many questions in Tang Ao's mind. However, Tang Ao didn't have the guts to ask Shi Yun. Unless Tang Ao was tired of living, he wouldn't look for Shi Yun and ask such a question, because if Tang Ao asked, his origin would be exposed. Once Shi Yun came to know that he had come from another plane, and that he could even cultivate here, Tang Ao felt that Shi Yun would most likely cut him into pieces for research. You don't need to panic. This is just an ordinary spatial formation. Sit down. Shi Yun pointed at the tea table in front of him while speaking. There were 9 chairs around the tea table. Tang Ao and the others could sit down. However, after Shi Yun said this, Zhongshan, Lin Hu, and Situ Qian didn't move. Instead, they looked at their 7th granduncle with puzzled expressions. Chen Nanchi smiled warmly at them and said, "Young Master Yun is not an ordinary person. Since young Master Yun has asked you to take a seat, then sit down. I believe young Master Yun will tell you about the other matters." 7th great uncle nodded at them and took the lead to sit on one of the chairs. After the 7th great uncle sat down, the rest of the blind warriors also walked to the side of the chairs and sat down. Although he knew that he was trapped in Shi Yun's array formation, Tang Ao did not think too much about it. With the means of Shenhuan Yun, a muddy heavenly realm expert, if he wanted to deal with them, Tang Ao and the others would have already died many times over. But now, Shi Tianyun did not attack them. Instead, he was very polite. Therefore, Tang Ao felt that Shi Tianyun must have something that he wanted to ask them for help. Moreover, this matter was certainly very important to Shi Yun. Otherwise, how could Shi Yun, a dignified, chaotic heaven stage powerhouse, lower himself to talk to a body refining stage ant like him? Since you are the people chosen by 7th great uncle, then I will get straight to the point. According to my original plan, I would have sent you out of the hidden dragon cave after 10 years. Then, I would have used the array formation to blow up the hidden dragon cave. You should have come into contact with the so-called array formation. Right now, we are surrounded by a spatial array formation. What Tang Ao didn't expect was that Shi Yun would actually say such words. Moreover, Shi Yun's attitude was extremely polite. Chapter 1321. Although Shi Yun's cultivation might not be as high as Mingdi's, he was still a heavenly muddy realm expert. Seeing such an expert speaking to a few body refining realm ants in such a friendly manner, Tang Ao didn't feel happy. Instead, he only felt a wave of bitterness. Although Shi Yun hadn't said anything, Tang Ao was sure that Shi Yun had something to ask of them. From Shi Yun's attitude, Tang Ao could see that this matter was very important to Shi Yun. At the same time, it must be very difficult. Otherwise, there was no need for Shi Yun to gather such a group of people here. For Shi Ting Yun, a powerhouse at the heavenly muddy stage, these ants might not be a big deal. However, Tang Ao knew that if these 9 people were to appear in the outside world, they might turn the entire Flying Star Continent upside down. After entering Shi Yun's thatched cottage, the blind expert, the female martial artist called Second Mother, and the remaining 2 martial artists who hadn't spoken revealed their true cultivation. Their cultivation concealment methods were extremely high. Previously, they had even deceived Tang Ao's soul remembrance. Moreover, Tang Ao didn't believe that this tiny flying star continent had any cultivation concealment methods that he couldn't discover. Therefore, Tang Ao didn't use his heavenly polar pupils to observe these people. However, Tang Ao had clearly miscalculated. These martial artists were all at the 9th level of the body, refining realm. As for Zhongshan, he was still at the 7th level of the body, refining realm. As for Tang Ao and the other two, they were still at the 5th level of the body, refining realm. This is the heavenly essence technique. In the future, you will cultivate this cultivation technique. After saying those words, Shi Yun threw 4 jade slips in front of Tang Ao and the others. The jade slips didn't have any essence qi fluctuations. Moreover, Shi Yun's body also didn't have any essence qi fluctuations. However, these jade slips were floating in front of them. Tang Ao didn't hesitate too much. He picked up the jade slips and swept his soul remembrance inside. With just a glance, Tang Ao was stunned, because Tang Ao had seen this cultivation technique before. It was the mysterious heaven skill that Tang Ao had cultivated in his previous life. It was just that the mysterious heaven technique absorbed and refined spiritual energy, but now, the heavenly essence technique in Tang Ao's hands had been transformed by Shi Yun into a cultivation method for cultivating vitality. Right now, Tang Ao and the rest of them were only at the body refining realm, but even if this martial art had been modified, it was still a top astral reaching realm martial art. Under normal circumstances, it was impossible for a body refining realm martial artist to come into contact with such a high-level cultivation technique in their lifetime. However, Shi Yun had casually taken out such a top-notch cultivation technique. You little guys, hurry up and thank young Master Yin. This technique is very precious. I've never seen such a magical technique in all the time I've spent in the Flying Star Continent and the Hidden Dragon Cave. 50 years ago, my lifespan was nearing its end. At that time, I met shitting young Master Yin. After shitting young Master Yin imparted this technique to me, I managed to raise my cultivation level from the body, refining realm level 8, to the body, refining realm level 9 overnight. Now that everyone was standing on the same side, 7th Uncle naturally wouldn't hide anything from them. Moreover, what 7th Uncle had learned from Shi Yun was not just this. There were even more things that he didn't dare to imagine. However, 7th Uncle knew that since Shi Yun had called Tang Ao and the rest over, he would definitely tell them these things personally. Therefore, 7th Uncle didn't say much. Chapter 1322. Sidu Qianqian and the other two might not believe it, but Tang Ao was sure about it. Even if there was a fairy weapon in the Evergreen Valley, Tang Ao did not think that there would be such a high-rank martial art in the Flying Star Continent. The mysterious heaven art that Tang Ao had was only an incomplete volume, but Tang Ao had only relied on that incomplete volume to reach the peak of astral reaching realm level 9. According to the first volume in Tang Ao's hand, the mysterious heaven art had a second volume and a third volume. However, in his previous life, Tang Ao had not found the second volume and the second volume even after he had fallen. He had not even heard any news about them. Right now, this Heaven Yuan spell that Shi Tianyin had modified was also based on the first volume of the mysterious heaven art. Although Shi Tianyin had modified the martial art all the way to the Sea of Souls realm, Tang Ao knew that even with such a powerful martial art, it would still be impossible to reach the Sea of Souls realm with just Yuan Qi alone. It was not because Shi Tianyin's modified martial art was not good, but because Yuan Qi was too weak. If he only trained with Yuan Qi, Tang Ao was not even sure if he could reach the origin martial realm with Yuan Qi alone. However, there was only Yuan Qi in this place. If Tang Ao could not use Yuan Qi to reach the origin martial realm, then Tang Ao's peak state in the Flying Star Continent would only be the peak of body refining realm level 9. Shi Tianyin, as the saying goes, one should not receive a reward without doing anything. The four of us have not done anything, yet we have already received such a huge favor from you. I wonder if Shi Tianyin has any instructions for us? After getting the martial art, Zhongshan hesitated for a long time. However, after reading the description of the martial art, that once he reached the Sea of Soul's realm, he would be able to regrow his broken limbs, Zhongshan was moved. He had only lost his arm not long ago, but Zhongshan had already felt a deep discomfort. Plus, through this martial art, Zhongshan had opened a new door of martial arts in front of him. This warrior, who had always been a gentleman, had also become greedy at this moment. At this time, not to mention that Shi Yun was willing to give him the heavenly essence technique. Even if Shi Yun was not willing to give him the heavenly essence technique, Zhongshan would never hand it over. The others didn't notice Zhongshan's strange expression, but sure, Ting Yun and Tang Ao, who had been paying attention to everyone's expression, saw it. After seeing Zhongshan's expression, Shi Yun nodded in satisfaction. The more greedy a cultivator was, the easier it was to control them. On the contrary, Tang Ao's group of 3 surprised Shi Yun. However, there was not much change in his expression. Just as Tang Ao thought, Ting Yun really did not take mere body refinement realmance to heart. However, the Flying Star Continent was the Tao world of the divine King Yunxing. The Tao world law of the divine King Yunxing did not allow spirit qi to exist. Even though divine King Yunxing had been dead for tens of thousands of years, his nomological Tao connotation still affected this space. Shi Yun originally thought that after his cultivation had reached the heavenly muddy realm, he would no longer be suppressed by the nomological Tao connotation of the divine King Yunxing. Therefore, he had not hesitated to chase the 3-headed flood dragon to this place. Now that 10,000 years had passed, he did not know what had happened to the 3-headed flood dragon, but Shi Yun had been trapped in the Flying Star Continent for 10,000 years. If he had not found the Evergreen Valley and discovered some interesting things in the Evergreen Valley, Shi Yun felt that he, a dignified heavenly muddy realm expert, would not have been able to avoid the exhaustion of his lifespan and eventually perish. Although Tang Ao saw that Shi Yun's eyes were flickering with contemplation, Tang Ao did not know what Shi Yun was thinking. Young Master Shi, you said that the plan would be implemented in 3 years. May I know what it is? Although Tang Ao did not want to attract Shi Yun's attention, Tang Ao still had to ask this question. Chapter 1323. Shi Yun faintly smiled. This time, I was also prepared to tell you about this matter. After seeing the heavenly origin technique, I'm sure you already know that above the body refining realm and the origin martial realm, there is still a realm called the Spirit Sea realm. In fact, there are many realms above the Spirit Sea realm. However, because there is no spiritual energy in the Flying Star Continent, martial artists can only stop at the origin martial realm. As Shi Yun spoke till here, a soul remembrance image was instantly projected in front of Tang Ao and the others. It was an image of a martial artist battle. In this image, many martial artists were fighting in a scarlet space. There were many continents in the surroundings of this space, but the aftermath of these experts' battle could easily destroy a plane similar to the Flying Star Continent. Even if Chen Nanshi and the others didn't know much about the outside world, this image was still very moving. There was longing, shock, helplessness, graveness, unwillingness, and all kinds of complicated emotions continuously changing on everyone's faces. This image seemed to have been created using some kind of special method. When Tang Ao looked at it again, he had a feeling that he was there. Looking at the experts' battle in the distance, it seemed that as long as any expert carelessly leaked a trace of the battle's aftermath, they would immediately turn into ashes. Coincidentally, at this time, a huge fireball that blotted out the sun was casually thrown out by a red-clothed expert. As this fireball flew out, cracks appeared in the space. Some of the surrounding low-level planes were instantly incinerated by this terrifyingly high temperature. And in the blink of an eye, the high temperature of the fireball arrived in front of Tang Ao and the others. Situ Qianqian miserably screamed and spat out a mouthful of blood. The others were also so scared that they couldn't move. Tang Ao's complexion also changed. That huge fireball just now was really too real. Moreover, Tang Ao also knew that there were actually so many experts in this world. Those martial artists in the image just now, without exception, were all peak experts of the heavenly muddy stage. Tang Ao reckoned that Shi Yun had seen this scene with his own eyes. Otherwise, it would be impossible for Shi Yun to make this scene so real. As you can see, in front of a true expert, not to mention a mere origin realm cultivator, even the entire flying star continent would be destroyed in an instant. This time, even Tang Ao didn't have any objection to Shi Yun's words. However, what Tang Ao didn't know was that Shi Tingyun was talking big this time. If he really had the ability to shatter the flying star continent, he wouldn't have needed to take the risk of escaping into the flying star continent to chase after the three-headed flood dragon. In terms of volume, even if it was a vast continent, Shi Tingyun would have been able to shatter it at his peak. Unfortunately, the flying star continent was protected by divine monarch Yun Xing's nomological Tao. Even though divine monarch Yun Xing had been dead for tens of thousands of years, he still couldn't shake the flying star continent. Junior sister Qianqian, are you okay? Tang Ao extended his hand to support the trembling Situ Qianqian. Tang Ao released the Jade Bone Vitality Life Soul to help Situ Qianqian stabilize her chaotic aura. Just now, when Situ Qianqian was watching the image that Shi Wanyan summoned out, her mind was in turmoil, which caused the essence qi in her body to flow in reverse. Chapter 1324. However, Tang Ao and the others were martial artists who had experienced countless life and death situations, so the feeling just now wasn't as intense as Situ Qianqian's. After calming down, Situ Qianqian also cast a grateful gaze at Tang Ao. In that instant, Situ Qianqian felt as if she was suffocating. Fortunately, when that feeling appeared, a strong and sturdy arm protected her, and soon after, a cool and refreshing feeling spread throughout her body. Situ Qianqian had a good impression of Tang Ao, but it wasn't romantic. Tang Ao was like an older brother to her. Tang Ao naturally didn't know that many thoughts had flashed through this little girl's mind in a split second. Seeing that Situ Qianqian wasn't speaking, Tang Ao could only ask again, Junior sister Qianqian, are you all right? Being asked by Tang Ao, Situ Qianqian was somewhat embarrassed. After angrily glancing at Tang Ao, Situ Qianqian turned her head away. When second mother saw Situ Qianqian's appearance, she immediately said in a gentle voice, Little girl, you've fallen in love. Second mother was still sitting in a wheelchair after entering this thatched cottage. It seemed that her injuries were very serious. Or it could be said that the flying star continent was too special. So, even Shi Yun, a powerhouse of the muddy heavenly realm, was helpless. However, what made Tang Ao speechless was that just as he had this thought, Shi Yun waved his hand and a jade box flew over from a distance. It was unknown what was inside the jade box, but Soul Remembrance couldn't detect it. If Tang Ao wanted to see it, he could use heavenly extreme pupils to examine it. However, in front of Shi Yun, Tang Ao didn't dare to use heavenly extreme pupils. Second mother, this is a return of spring powder. In 3 days, you should be able to stand up. Shi Yun felt very sullen. He was a grand celestial turbid realm emperor rank expert, but now he had fallen to the point where he needed a few puny body refining realm experts to do things for him. However, one had no choice but to lower one's head. This was divine monarch Yun's house. No matter how strong Shi Yun was, he was just an ant in front of an almighty like divine monarch Yun Xing. Young Master Shi, my medicine is done. The second mother was paralyzed after she was poisoned. Even Lu Yang, the divine physician of the Lu family's manor house, was helpless against this poison. The second mother was so disheartened that she was captured by the dragon prison fort and imprisoned in the dragon crouching cave. Now that her leg injury was healed, the second mother did not want to continue staying in this godforsaken place any longer. At this moment, Tang Ao frowned. There was a person standing not far away from them. Perhaps because Tang Ao's attention was mostly on Shi Yun, Tang Ao did not notice when this person had arrived. However, Tang Ao was sure that this person was not in the palace at the beginning. Currently, although the place where Tang Ao and the others were in was a palace. It was not as magnificent as an ordinary palace. The floor of this palace was made of a kind of stone that flickered with a dim brilliance. If one stared at it for a long time, it would cause one to feel dazzled. Even so, when Tang Ao saw this stone, his heart suddenly sobered up. Tang Ao discovered that he had been wrong from the beginning. Perhaps it was because Tang Ao was proficient in the array Tao. Therefore, when Shi Yun had said that this was the effect of an illusory array, Tang Ao had believed Shi Yun's words. Moreover, he had truly believed that this was an illusory array. Moreover, he had thought that Shi Yun's array Tao ability was too strong that he could not see the traces of an array formation. However, Tang Ao now understood that he was not mistaken. Chapter 1325. Some of you should know about this thing. Shi Tianyun's words pulled Tang Ao back from his thoughts. Tang Ao raised his head and saw an image. On the image, there were 8 different colored tags, but all of them were leaking out powerful auras. Although Tang Ao knew that these tags were not ordinary, Tang Ao really did not know what they were. Not only Tang Ao, even Zhongshan and the other 2 had a confused look flash through their eyes. Obviously, even the 3 natives of the Flying Star Continent did not know what these tags were. However, the 7th great uncle thought for a while and said, "I heard that hundreds of years ago, the ancestors of the 8 top powers found a mysterious altar at the top of the Flying Star Cliff. Under the altar, there was a strange array and many treasures." Speaking up to here, the 7th great uncle paused for a while, then continued, "The ancestors of the 8 top powers used these treasures to create the 8 top powers that rule the Flying Star Continent today. However, among these treasures, there are 8 tags that no one knows what they are used for. I have seen one of them in the Liu family." Tang Ao didn't expect that the origin of these 8 command tokens would turn out to be like this. However, Tang Ao knew that these 8 command tokens were certainly not that simple. Otherwise, a super powerhouse of Heavenly Muddy Realm like Shi Yun wouldn't be interested in these 8 command tokens. Tang Ao thought to himself, "If I were a Sky Realm warrior, I'm afraid that the thing I want to do every day after being trapped here is to leave this place." However, there were only 2 ways to leave this place. One was to use the Space Jade spell, and the other was to reach the peak of Astral Reaching Realm Level 9 and shatter the surreal space to leave. However, Tang Ao felt that neither of these 2 methods would work, because in this place, the Space Jade spell could not be used directly. It was as if there was an invisible power that had restricted this space. Secondly, if one only relied on Yuan Qi, reaching the Origin Martial Realm would be the limit. Warriors like Tang Ao, who had the 9 Dragons Emperor Jade body, seemed to have some difficulties in reaching the Origin Martial Realm. This did not mean that Tang Ao's physique was too weak. On the contrary, this was the heaven-defying aspect of the 9 Dragons Emperor's Jade body. Martial artists with the 9 Dragons Emperor's Jade body consumed more resources than ordinary martial artists. When breaking through to the next realm, warriors with the 9 Dragons Emperor's Jade body needed a terrifying amount of resources. Compared to ordinary warriors, Tang Ao's cultivation resources might be several times or even dozens of times more than them. Therefore, with the density of the origin energy in the Flying Star Continent, Tang Ao felt that it would be extremely difficult for him to break into the Origin Realm. Before, Tang Ao did not have any plans to break into the Origin Realm because with his methods, as long as he could reach the 9th level of the Body Refinement Realm, he could do whatever he wanted in the Flying Star Continent. However, after seeing Shi Yun at this moment, Tang Ao also restrained this thought. It seemed that he wasn't the only one who had come here from a high-level plane. Shi Yun had not only come from a high-grade plane, but he was also a chaotic heaven stage expert. Among all the living powerful warriors that Tang Ao had seen so far, this Shi Yun was the most powerful one. Tang Ao did not know why Shi Yun had come here, but since a powerful warrior like Shi Yun might be trapped here, then it was very likely that there were other astral-reaching realm and yin-yang realm warriors here as well. Chapter 1326. Xiao Yu. When did you arrive? At this moment, seventh great uncle finally noticed the person standing in the corner. Tang Ao saw the astonished expressions of seventh great uncle and the others. Clearly, they recognized Xiaoyu. It wasn't just seventh great uncle. Even Situ Qianqian and the others seemed to recognize Xiaoyu. However, Situ Qianqian and the others' faces were full of shock. Big brother Xiaoyu, didn't something happen to you in Evergreen Valley? Situ Qianqian used her soul remembrance to scan Xiaoyu. After confirming that it was Xiaoyu, she asked in disbelief. Junior sister Qianqian, long time no see. I didn't expect that even junior sister Qianqian will be chosen this time. Congratulations, junior sister. Xiaoyu said as he walked out of the shadows. He was wearing black clothes. His figure was slender and his steps were light. In such a quiet hall, not a single sound could be heard. When Xiaoyu walked closer, Shi Yunyun calmly said, "Sit." Hearing Shi Yunyun's words, Xiaoyu also sat down. After Xiaoyu sat down, Shi Yunyun continued. Xiaoyu's accidental death in Evergreen Valley was just a cover-up. In reality, Xiaoyu had already left Hidden Dragon Cave half a year ago to scout for information on Flying Star Continent. Tell me, what happened on Flying Star Continent during this period of time? Shi Yunyun spoke casually, but Tang Ao and the others were shocked. Tang Ao was a bit better because he knew that Shi Yunyun was once a Muddy Heaven Realm expert. Therefore, even if something happened that defied common sense, Tang Ao could barely accept it. However, the others' hearts were in a perilous state. The reason why they followed Shi Yunyun so casually was because they wanted to leave Hidden Dragon Cave. However, Hidden Dragon Cave security was tight, far surpassing everyone's imagination. Aside from Su Hongyi and Shadowless, the four peak experts at the 9th level of the Body Refinement Realm, there was also an extremely powerful array protection. More than 10 years ago, a genius martial artist named Xiao Li had appeared in the Dragon Subduing Cave. This person had cultivated in the Dragon Subduing Cave for 11 years, and from an ordinary person, he had cultivated to the peak of the 9th level of the Body Refining Realm. Moreover, they were extraordinarily strong. Just like the Ho Tianxi brothers, they were invincible existences in the same realm. After cultivating to the peak of the 9th level of the Body Refining Realm, Xiao Li was naturally unwilling to continue staying in the Hidden Dragon Cave. Thus, Xiao Li led a group of martial artists who also wanted to leave the Hidden Dragon Cave and prepare to leave. Shadowless and Su Hongyi, who were guarding the Hidden Dragon Cave, were all defeated by Xiao Li. But after Xiao Li defeated everyone, he was still blocked by the array formation at the entrance of the Hidden Dragon Cave. Everyone worked together to attack the array formation for a long time, but they were unable to break it. Later, the Castle Lord of Dragon Prison Castle arrived and killed Xiao Li and his group. At that time, although Xiao Li was almost invincible at the 9th level of the Body Refining Realm, it was said that Xiao Li didn't even last 3 moves against the Dragon Prison Castle Lord before being defeated. However, after Xiao Li was defeated, some people said that he was killed on the spot by the Castle Lord of the Dragon Prison Castle. Others said that the Castle Lord cherished talent and imprisoned him somewhere. But there was no way to verify this because after that incident, no one in the Hidden Dragon Cave had seen Xiao Li again. Therefore, now that they knew that Xiaoyu could actually leave the Hidden Dragon Cave, 7th Great Uncle and the others were so shocked. Although their cultivation had already risen to the peak of the 9th level of the Body Refining Realm, they clearly didn't think that they were stronger than Xiao Li back then. Speaking of Xiao Li, 7th Great Uncle inadvertently glanced at Xiaoyu, because coincidentally, that Xiao Li was Xiaoyu's elder brother. It was just that 7th Great Uncle didn't understand why Xiao Li didn't escape with his younger brother. Chapter 13:27. Up until now, the formations Tang Ao had seen in the Hidden Dragon Crypt were all low and medium grade 1 formations. Tang Ao hadn't even seen a grade 2 formation. Thus, Tang Ao had once suspected that the formations on the Flying Star Continent had stopped at the level of grade 1 spirit formations. However, this time, Tang Ao was wrong. Perhaps the formation Tao of the martial artists on the Flying Star continent was still at the level of grade 1 spirit formations, but the formations on the Flying Star continent had far surpassed this level. If Tang Ao was lucky enough to see the restrictive formation at the entrance of the Hidden Dragon Crypt, Tang Ao would be shocked to discover that it was a grade 6 immortal formation. However, after Tang Ao found out that Shi Yunyan had other methods to leave the Hidden Dragon Crypt, Tang Ao was no longer interested in studying that grade 6 immortal formation. What Tang Ao wanted to do the most was to find a way to leave this place through Shi Yunyan's method. While Tang Ao was still pondering, Xiao Yu calmly said, "A lot of things have happened on the Flying Star continent in the past half a year, but none of them are important. Then pick the important ones." This time, it was the 7th great-uncle who spoke. After he found out that Shi Yunyan had a way to leave the Hidden Dragon Crypt, he could no longer sit still. Now, the 7th great-uncle really didn't want to stay in the Hidden Dragon Crypt for even a moment longer. With the Heavenly Yuan technique taught by Shi Yunyan, cultivating to the origin martial realm was only a matter of time. However, in the Hidden Dragon Crypt, everyone was cultivating as if they had been injected with chicken blood. The origin energy was so thin that it made people want to bang their heads against the wall. Cultivating here was really too slow, way too slow. Moreover, wanting to obtain an essence-augmenting pill here was like ascending to the heavens. With his cultivation at the peak of the 9th level of the body refining realm, let alone a mere mid-grade essence-augmenting pill, even a high-grade essence-augmenting pill could be easily obtained by him. The more he thought about it, the more urgent the 7th great-uncle wanted to leave this place. In terms of major events, there are only 3 that can be considered major. Xiao Yu didn't mind Chun Nanchi's attitude. Although his strength was far above Chun Nanchi's seniority was still there. At this moment, Chun Nanchi was talking to him like a senior talking to a junior. The first major event is that the Murong family, which used to be one of the 8 great forces, has been on the decline since a year ago. Half a year ago, they were kicked out of the ranks of the 8 great forces. The new Duan family has taken over the Murong family's original position. Chen Nanchi and the others fell silent after Xiao Yu said this. The affairs of the world were impermanent, and the vicissitudes of life changed greatly. They did not expect that the situation on the Flying Star continent would change so much while they were trapped here. If Tang Ao still had some doubts about whether Xiao Yu had really left the Hidden Dragon Cave, Tang Ao was certain now. When Tang Ao first came to the Flying Star continent, he was saved by the second daughter of the Murong family, Murong Xian. Thinking of Murong Xian, Tang Ao couldn't help but worry about her. This girl was too pure and kind. As the direct descendant of the family, she had been suppressed and excluded by the people of the concubine's bloodline. Originally, Tang Ao wanted to help her after his cultivation recovered. In the end, Tang Ao was trapped in the Hidden Dragon Crypt. Tang Ao also remembered his agreement with Murong Xian. Back then, Tang Ao borrowed a bottle of mid-grade essence augmenting pill from Murong Xian and said that he would return it after a month. Chapter 1328. Tang Ao was different from Chen Nanchi. Chen Nanchi felt that the natural Yuan Qi in the outside world was denser than in the Hidden Dragon Cave, so his training speed would be faster. However, Tang Ao knew that because he had the 9 Dragon Emperor's Jade body, the natural Yuan Qi in the outside world was far from enough for Tang Ao. Therefore, if Tang Ao wanted to increase his cultivation quickly, he could only rely on the vitality-raising pill. However, all pills contained pill toxins. Tang Ao used the vitality-raising pill to increase his cultivation, so pill toxins were unavoidable. However, for Tang Ao, who had the Jade Bone Life Spirit, pill toxins did not exist at all. Because the Jade Bone Life Spirit could completely refine the pill toxins, they would not cause any trouble for Tang Ao. Therefore, Tang Ao decided that he still had to go to the Evergreen Valley as soon as possible. After all, what you hear is false. Seeing is believing. Only by going to the Evergreen Valley himself would he know what was going on there. Moreover, the vitality-raising pill was the most important training resource in the Flying Star Continent. Even outside the Hidden Dragon Cave, the spirit plants needed to make it would not be easy to find. Shinanchi and the rest were all at the peak of astral reaching realm level 9, which was already one of the top martial artists in the Flying Star Continent. However, Tang Ao was only a body refining realm level 5 martial artist. In the Flying Star Continent, he would not be able to make any waves. Moreover, Tang Ao was not familiar with the Flying Star Continent either. In the Hidden Dragon Cave, Tang Ao had the spirit plants in the Evergreen Valley. But after leaving the Hidden Dragon Crypt, Tang Ao really did not know where to go to find the spiritual herbs to refine the essence cultivating pill. Most importantly, Tang Ao did not rely on the Yuan Qi in the Hidden Dragon Cave like other martial artists. When he first came to the Hidden Dragon Cave, it was because Tang Ao's injuries were too severe, which was why he was in such a difficult situation. Now that Tang Ao's external injuries had completely recovered, that situation naturally did not exist anymore. Furthermore, Hai Fuyuan and the rest had even discovered a fragment of an immortal artifact in the Evergreen Valley. Therefore, Tang Ao deduced that the Evergreen Valley was not as simple as he had imagined. Moreover, although there were many warriors in the Hidden Dragon Crypt, the range of activity of all the warriors was basically on the outskirts of the Evergreen Valley. Even the number of warriors who entered the central region of the Evergreen Valley were few and far between. As for the martial artists who had entered the depths of the Evergreen Valley, until now, Tang Ao had not heard of them. Of course, this was not because there were no martial artists who tried to enter the depths of the Evergreen Valley. It was because the martial artists who entered the depths of the Evergreen Valley never came out again. Hence, the depths of Evergreen Valley had always been a mystery to the martial artists of the Hidden Dragon Crypt. Although many people were curious about the depths of the Evergreen Valley, when they thought about the fact that such a powerful martialist had entered the depths of the Evergreen Valley and never returned, they gave up on the idea. However, Tang Ao was different from these people. Tang Ao's soul remembrance was originally not something these martial artists could compare to. Adding on the fact that Tang Ao had the heavenly extreme pupils which could investigate the secrets of heaven and earth. When Tang Ao entered the Evergreen Valley, he would naturally investigate carefully. However, although Tang Ao did not immediately decide to leave the Hidden Dragon Crypt, Tang Ao still really wanted to know how Xiao Yu had left the Hidden Dragon Crypt. Not leaving now didn't mean that Tang Ao would not leave in the future. Although Tang Ao did not place the restriction array at the entrance of the Hidden Dragon Crypt in his eyes, one more method meant one more choice. If Xiao Yu's method of leaving the Hidden Dragon Crypt was easy, Tang Ao naturally would not refuse. Chapter 1329. When Tang Ao heard the name Murong Jie, he was stunned for a moment. Then he remembered that Murong Jie was Murong Xian's grandfather. According to Murong Xian, the Murong family had fallen to such a state because his grandfather and father had been injured by evil people when they went out to do something. His grandfather had died on the spot to cover his father's retreat. His father had also suffered heavy injuries, and his cultivation had decreased greatly. He had been at the peak of the 9th level of the body refining realm, but now he was at the 7th level. Previously, Tang Ao did not have a deep understanding of this. However, after seeing 7th Great Uncle and the other 5 martial artists at the peak of the 9th level of the body refining realm, Tang Ao understood the situation the Murong family was in. The Murong family was one of the top 8 forces in the Facian continent. However, the leader of the family had decreased greatly in cultivation. He was only at the 7th level of the body refining realm. How could he maintain his position as the overlord? It was not hard for Tang Ao to imagine that the Murong family was in a state of being surrounded by a pack of wolves. As the saying went, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. The Murong clan had ruled over an area of land for 800 years. Even though their strength had declined, due to the hard work of generations of masters, the Murong clan had accumulated a lot of wealth, cultivation resources, and precious treasures. Therefore, This was the time to divide the Murong family's treasures. At this time, the Murong family was a fat piece of meat that everyone wanted to take a bite out of. Murong Xian had saved his life before. At this time, Tang Ao should lend a helping hand. However, Tang Ao was only at the 5th level of the body refining realm. He had the will, but not the strength. Tang Ao could only pray that the Murong family could hold on a little longer. Once his cultivation reached the 7th or 8th level of the body refining realm, if the Murong family still existed, Tang Ao would definitely lend a helping hand. With Tang Ao's methods, as long as his cultivation reached the 7th level of the body refining realm, there would be few who could match him in the body refining realm. Once his cultivation reached the 8th level of the body refining realm, it would not be a problem for him to defeat other body refining realm martial artists. Murong Jia. Xiaoyu was stunned for a moment when he heard the name Murong Jia. He then continued to speak. The Murong family's old master, Murong Jia, has passed away a year ago. Even Murong Jia's son, Murong Di, is on the verge of death. I met Murong Di a while ago. At this moment, Murong Di is only at the 7th level of the body refining realm, and his aura is very weak. Clearly, his injuries are very serious. Brother Xiaoyu, do you have any news about the second miss of the Murong family, Murong Xian? Even though Tang Ao knew that it was not a good time to ask about Murong Xian, she was still Tang Ao's savior. Tang Ao had always been a person who could clearly distinguish between gratitude and grudges. If he had remained indifferent even after knowing that Murong Xian was in danger, it would have gone against Tang Ao's Taoist heart. After hearing Tang Ao ask about Murong Xian, Xiaoyu smiled indifferently. Could it be that junior brother Tang Ao has some feelings for Miss Murong Xian? The reason why Xiaoyu asked this was because he just so happened to know about Murong Xian. However, Xiaoyu did not expect that Tang Ao, who had just joined them, would actually be involved with Murong Xian. I'm greatly indebted to Miss Murong Xian. Please tell me, Brother Xiaoyu. Hearing Xiaoyu's tone, Tang Ao knew that Xiaoyu definitely knew about Murong Xian. Moreover, from Xiaoyu's tone, Tang Ao could vaguely tell that Murong Xian's current situation was very bad. Back then, Murong Xian had saved him. However, when they were about to leave, something big happened on Murong Xian's pleasure boat. Chapter 1330. At that time, Tang Ao had placed the blood essence in the storage ring, while Tang Ao's storage ring had been taken by Ding Kuei. Tang Ao clearly remembered that the bald man called Ding Kuei was only at the 5th layer of the body refining realm, the same cultivation as Tang Ao. At that time, Tang Ao was sure that if he met Ding Kuei again, he would beat him into a pig's head. In the storage ring, besides the blood essence, there was also a bottle of mid-grade vitality cultivating pills borrowed from Murong Xian. Although the storage ring had been taken by Ding Kuei, Tang Ao wasn't worried about the things in the storage ring at that time. The storage ring had a restriction that Tang Ao had personally set up. Even the sole remembrance of an origin martial realm martial artist couldn't break the restriction. Unless Tang Ao died, the sole remembrance restriction would be weakened. If it was just a bottle of mid-grade vitality cultivating pills, Tang Ao really wouldn't be interested in looking for Ding Kuei. However, the blood essence was obviously a good thing. Although Tang Ao couldn't use it, it was too much of a waste to leave it in the hands of a brute like Ding Kuei. Half a month ago, the eldest daughter of the multiple chain dock came to the Murong family because her pet, the three-tailed blood civet, was injured. As far as I know, the Murong family didn't have much to do with the matter, but the Shangwan family. However, unlike the Murong family, the Shangwan family is now in a state of prosperity, so the multiple chain dock doesn't dare to offend the Shangwan family. They can only vent their anger on the Murong family. After hearing Xiaoyu's words, Tang Ao's heart thumped. Sure enough, what he feared had come true. Lu Ruyin didn't look for trouble with Shangwan Fei, but went to make things difficult for Murong Xian. It could be said that the incident with the three-tailed blood civet was completely caused by Shangwan Fei. Shangwan Fei said that he caught the three-tailed blood civet when it was unguarded. However, he knew that he could not handle the three-tailed blood civet on his own. Hence, he brought the three-tailed blood civet to Murong Xian's pleasure boat. After all, the three-tailed blood civet cat was an infamous demonic beast. If Murong Xian and the others had not attacked and wounded the three-tailed blood civet cat, the people on the pleasure boat would have been eaten by it. The young lady of the multiple chain dock, Lu Rian, asked the Murong family to hand over Murong Xian to her. She also asked the Murong family to return the blood essence forced out from the three-tailed blood civet. However, the Murong family refused, saying that the blood chi essence was not in their hands. As for injuring the three-tailed blood civet, the Murong clan is willing to compensate us. Without waiting for Xiaoyu to continue, Shi Tianyun, who had been silent all this while, asked, "Is this the blood chi essence you mentioned?" As Shi Tianyun spoke, a scene appeared in front of everyone. In this scene, there was a stone as red as blood. This stone was the size of a baby's fist, and its whole body was bright red and transparent. It was almost the same as the blood chi essence that Tang Ao had obtained in the past. Seeing the scene in Shi Tianyun's hand, as well as her slightly excited expression, Tang Ao realized that the blood chi essence that Ding Kuei had snatched away was not as simple as it seemed. If the blood chi essence was just an ordinary treasure, it would not have been able to attract the attention of a Muddy Heaven stage expert like Shi Tianyun. Chapter 1331. After a moment of silence, Xiaoyu said, "According to my investigation, this blood chi essence should be in the hands of Shangwan Fei or Tai Longcheng. I haven't seen this blood chi essence with my own eyes, but according to the description of the people who saw it, it seems to look like this." "Yes." After hearing Xiaoyu's answer, Shi nodded. "I see. Continue." Although the multiple chain dock always wanted Murong Xian, the Murong family had a very unyielding attitude and wanted to protect her. Although the Murong family has declined, the multiple chain dock was afraid that if they forced the Murong family to a dead end, the Murong family would fight to the death. Although the Murong family is definitely not the multiple chain dock's opponent, the multiple chain dock didn't want the Murong family to bite back before they died. After a pause, Xiaoyu continued, "So the multiple chain dock demanded a large amount of property from the Murong family. They also wanted the Murong family to hand over the blood chi essence after 3 months. Although the Murong family repeatedly argued that the blood chi essence wasn't in their hands, they still agreed. When I left the Murong manor, it was already in chaos. I don't know what the current situation is." After listening to Xiaoyu, Tang Ao was even more worried about Murong Xian's safety. However, even if he went to the Murong family now, he wouldn't be able to help. His cultivation was still too low. Right now, not to mention Origin Realm Martial Artist and Body Refinement Realm Martial Artist in the 9th level. Even if it was a martial artist in the 8th level of the Body Refinement Realm, Tang Ao did not dare to say he could take them down. Judging from the Murong family's current situation, it was likely that the 8 Supreme Forces and some cultivators with slightly higher cultivations were all eyeing the Murong family. At a time like this, even if Tang Ao wanted to save Murong Xian from the Murong family, it would not be an easy task, not to mention helping the Murong family get through this crisis. Thinking of this, Tang Ao was even more eager to enter the Evergreen Valley. As long as he could find enough spiritual herbs in the Evergreen Valley, Tang Ao would be able to concoct a large number of essence cultivating pills. With the help of the large amount of essence chi in the essence cultivating pills, Tang Ao will be able to raise his cultivation level in a short period of time. As long as Tang Ao's cultivation could rise to the 7th level of the body refining realm, Tang Ao was confident that he could rescue Murong Xian from the Murong family. And once Tang Ao's cultivation could rise to the 9th level of the body refining realm, Tang Ao could even guarantee that the Murong family would survive this crisis. However, it was meaningless to talk about this now, because Tang Ao hadn't even been to Evergreen Valley yet, let alone find the spirit herbs to refine the vitality cultivating pill. Tang Ao had already decided to go to Evergreen Valley to take a look the next morning. Tang Ao believed that as long as the Evergreen Valley had the spiritual herbs to refine the essence-cultivating pill, there was no reason why he couldn't find it. As for now, it was better to listen to what had happened outside the dragon's subduing caves and understand how Xiao Yu had avoided the guards of the dragon prison castle and entered the dragon subduing caves. Thank you, Brother Xiao Yu, for telling me. May I know what the other two major events are? Xiao Yu had said that 3 major events had happened in the Facian continent during this period of time. The first was the change in the structure of the Facian continent and the decline of the Morong family. Now, Tang Ao also wanted to know what the other 2 events were. Actually, the other 2 events can be said to be the same thing. A few months ago, the only son of the Facian Alliance's leader, Lu Xingjin, saved an extraordinary girl from the river of Forgetfulness Cliff. Although that girl was a mortal girl who couldn't cultivate, she had an unparalleled beauty that could cause the downfall of cities and countries. Lu Xingjin, who had never been close to women and was obsessed with martial arts, hung around this girl all day long. However, he still couldn't move Miss Chu Xiaohan's heart. Even heroes have a weakness for the charms of a beautiful woman. Chapter 1332. However, Tang Ao didn't relax for long. His complexion turned serious once again. At this time, Xiao Yu said, several months ago, Lu Xingjin saved Miss Chu from the Forgotten River Cliff. Since then, he has been following Miss Chu closely. At first, Lu Chuanjia didn't agree to this marriage because Miss Chu couldn't cultivate. However, seeing that Lu Xingjin was too infatuated with Chu Xiaohan, he had no choice but to agree in the end. Hearing Xiao Yu's words, Tang Ao's complexion turned bitter. It seemed that it was just as he had thought. Martial artists from other planes couldn't use the world essence energy of the Flying Star continent to cultivate, whether it was a chaotic heaven stage expert like Shi Yun or Chu Xiaohan. After coming here, the spirit energy would scatter and they would become ordinary people. The only difference was that Shi Yun's thatch cottage was somewhat formidable. Tang Ao could feel that Shi Yun could use spirit energy in this thatch cottage. However, he didn't know why, but Shi Yun wasn't very willing to use the spirit energy in this thatch cottage. When Shi Yun used the spirit energy here, he only used it to create an illusion. However, the strange thing is that Miss Chu Xiaohan seems to have a sweetheart. No matter how hard Lu Xingjin pursued her, Miss Chu didn't agree. Therefore, Lu Chuanjia and Miss Chu Xiaohan agreed that 3 months later, at the summit of the Flying Star Cliff, all the young talents of the Flying Star continent would have a competition. Miss Chu must marry whoever comes out on top. At the same time, the person who comes out on top will also be the next leader of the Flying Star Alliance. Therefore, the remaining 2 matters can be said to be the same. Xiao Yu had clearly inquired about this matter in the outside world. Now, he was also very clear about this matter. After hearing that Chu Xiaohan was being forced to marry, Tang Ao became angry. However, Tang Ao didn't erupt in anger. Instead, he forced himself to calm down. The current Tang Ao was no longer a newbie who had just arrived at the Flying Star continent and didn't know anything about it. Therefore, Tang Ao knew that the place where Chu Xiaohan was called the Lu Residence. In other places, the Lu Residence was just an ordinary name. But in the Facian continent, the Lu Residence was a symbol of power. About half of the top 10 experts on the Flying Star continent belonged to the Lu clan. The Lu clan accounted for 30% of the martial artists at the peak of the 9th level of the body refining realm on the Flying Star continent. If Tang Ao was at his peak, these things would not be worth mentioning at all. But now, Tang Ao didn't know how long it had been since he was at his peak. That's about all that has happened in the outside world during this period of time. The rest are all trivial matters, so I won't go into details, said Xiao Yu after thinking for a moment. Master Yin, since Xiao Yu can go out. In fact, the 7th great uncle was not very concerned about the situation outside. Not only him, but the others were also the same. Compared to the situation outside, they were more interested in finding out how to leave this place. To some martial artists with mediocre aptitude and average cultivation, the dragon-subduing crypt could very well be a very good place. Chapter 1333. After seventh great-uncle asked how to leave the hidden dragon crypt, Tang Ao also looked at Shi Yun. Although Tang Ao was confident that the so-called forbidden formation at the entrance of the hidden dragon crypt could not trap him, under such circumstances, if there was a more convenient method, Tang Ao naturally would not refuse. However, Tang Ao guessed that since Shi Yun needed these people to do things for him, Shi Yun would not easily reveal the method to leave the hidden dragon crypt. Sure enough, Shi Yun smiled indifferently and said, "You will naturally know about this in the future. For now, you may withdraw." "Young Master Shi, why can't we know the method to leave the hidden dragon crypt?" Next to seventh great-uncle, a somewhat lean old man finally could not hold back and asked. This old man and the person in front of him were clearly twin brothers. Both their appearances and auras were very similar. While this old man was interrogating Shi Yun, the other person's aura also pressed down on Shi Yun. Impudent. Seeing this scene, Xiao Yu instantly stood up. His surging aura spread out as he faced the Wang brothers. "Ah, Xiao Yu, if you can leave by yourself, then you are in cahoots with this surnamed Shi. Never mind. Since you have already left the hidden dragon crypt, it is the same if you tell us the method to leave." The Wang brothers had been trapped in the hidden dragon crypt for a longer time than seventh great-uncle and the others, so they knew the fierceness of the hidden dragon crypt. It was also because of this that the Wang brothers didn't join in when Xiao Li appeared out of nowhere. Because the Wang brothers knew better than anyone that Xiao Li was courting death. Later on, the Wang brothers met Shi Yun. Because Shi Yun was too mysterious and knew many secrets that ordinary people did not know, the Wang brothers gradually decided to rely on Shi Yun. Later on, Shi Yun deduced the heavenly Yuan technique, which allowed the Wang brothers' cultivation speed to advance by leaps and bounds. The two of them were even more in admiration of Shi Yun. Now that they saw Xiao Yu successfully leave the hidden dragon crypt, the two of them understood that their judgment was correct. Shi Yun really had the means to leave this damned place. Compared to other things, the two of them were most interested in how to leave this place. However, Shi Yun was unwilling to talk about this most important matter. The Wang brothers had received too much kindness from Shi Tianyun over the years. At this moment, when Shi Tianyun did not reciprocate their kindness, the two of them immediately erupted. While the Wang brothers and Shi Wanyun were confronting each other, Second Mother took a glance at seventh granduncle. Tang Ao sensed a weak soul remembrance fluctuation between the two of them. Clearly, the two of them were communicating about something. Tang Ao didn't know what the two of them were talking about, but Shi Tianyun heard it very clearly. Just as Tang Ao had imagined, this thatched hut was, in fact, the place where Shi Wanyun cultivated. Although Shi Yunyun's immortal essence energy had been completely dispersed, he could still use immortal essence energy to a certain extent in this thatched cottage. This was also the reason why Shi Yun had dared to gather so many experts at the ninth layer of the body refining realm, even though he couldn't use his immortal essence force. "Are you all that anxious to know how to leave this place?" At this time, Shi Tianyun also looked at the Wang brothers and said with a calm voice. Chapter 1334. Just now, Tang Ao had already discovered that Shi Yun seemed to be able to use a bit of spiritual power here. Tang Ao felt that apart from Li Qing, no one here was blind, so they should be able to feel it. Although Li Qing was blind, his perception was even sharper, so he should be able to feel the fluctuations of spiritual power here. What if I don't say it? When Shi Yun, who had always been gentle and refined, said these words, his voice revealed a terrifying chill. However, the Wang brothers believed that they knew Shi Yun very well, so they did not take Shi Yun's threat seriously. "The one with the surname Shi, we're giving you face by calling you young Master Shi. You should know what's good for you. We brothers have followed you for so many years, so how could we not understand you? Don't try to scare us. If you know what's good for you, Then quickly tell us the method to leave the hidden dragon cave. Otherwise, don't blame us brothers for being impolite. That's really a pity, Yun said and waved his sleeve. Immediately, an incomparably mysterious fluctuation suddenly swept towards the Wong brothers. Tang Ao could feel that this fluctuation was very light. It was really just a gentle wave of his sleeve. However, Tang Ao was shocked to discover that under this casual wave of Yun's, everyone's body was bound by an invisible force. Tang Ao used all the strength in his body, wanting to move a bit. However, Tang Ao found that he could not move at all. At the same time, a breeze blew on the Wong brothers' body. The two of them did not even have the chance to scream and turned into ashes. Moreover, the breeze didn't stop even after turning the Wong brothers into ashes. Instead, it continued to blow towards Tang Ao. Tang Ao was shocked. At this moment, Tang Ao was completely bound by Yun, so much so that Tang Ao could not even sense the Primal Chaos 6 light mirror. Although Tang Ao considered himself to be extraordinary, Tang Ao did not think that he would be able to withstand the breeze that Ting Yun had casually sent out. That was because the disparity in strength between the two of them was just too big. It was like a heavenly moat. Tang Ao was only at the 5th level of the body refining realm, while Yun was a celestial turbid realm powerhouse. Although Tang Ao knew that powerhouses did not need a reason to kill, if he died like this, Tang Ao would still feel that he had died unjustly. Because after entering this thatched hut, Tang Ao did not offend Yun at all. Therefore, Yun did not have any reason to kill him. However, just as the breeze was about to blow in front of Tang Ao suddenly felt his body loosen. Immediately, a miserable scream came out. Tang Ao turned his head to look and saw the breeze blowing towards Chun Nanchi. Under that breeze, Chun Nanchi saw his own arm turn into dust. After crippling Chun Nanchi's arm, Yun asked in a calm voice, "Now, you don't doubt my strength?" Hearing Yun's words, Chun Nanchi and Second Mother immediately knelt down in fear. Just now, the two of them had sent a sound transmission, saying that they wanted to see Yun's strength. If Yun really did not have any cultivation, then they would force him to reveal the method to leave the hidden dragon cave. In the end, the two of them thought that they were secretive, but Yun could clearly hear their conversation. If Chun Nanchi still had doubts about Yun's strength before, then at this moment, he no longer had any doubts. However, Chun Nanchi still could not understand why a powerhouse among powerhouses like Yun would look for them. However, at this moment, Chun Nanchi was not in the mood to think about this. The scene of Chun Nanchi killing the Wong brothers in a flash was still very clear in Chun Nanchi's mind. Moreover, he had felt the pain of his left arm being pulverized just now very deeply. Chapter 1335. Lord Shi, spare us. Chun Nanchi, and I do not have any improper thoughts towards Lord Shi like the Wong brothers. After seeing Yun's methods, Second Mother was also not lightly frightened. Second Mother felt that when she was young, she had traveled extensively, so she could be counted as a person with knowledge. But the method Yun used to kill the Wong brothers just now was too unimaginable. Not only Second Mother, even Chun Nanchi and the others' eyes were filled with confusion. But Tang Ao understood. Tang Ao already knew that Muddy Heaven Realm martial artists had domains. Back then, in the Emperor Netherworld's secret realm, Tang Ao fought against a remnant soul of Emperor Yulong. At that time, Emperor Yulong also used a strand of remnant soul to release a domain to suppress Tang Ao. Today's matter ends here. 1 year later, I will tell you the method to leave. Also, if you can break through to the origin realm within 1 year, you will receive benefits that you cannot even imagine. Do not doubt my words. Step down. As Yun spoke, he retracted the domain that enveloped everyone's body. Only after Yun retracted the domain did Tang Ao feel that his body was completely light. Just now, when he was enveloped by Shi Yun's domain, Tang Ao felt that everything about him was under Shi Yun's control. It seemed that no matter when, the strength of Muddy Heaven Realm experts would always be that terrifying. Just now, Tang Ao did not doubt that Shi Yun could kill him with a single thought. Luckily, Shi Yun did not have any killing intent towards him. Shi Yun still needed them to do things for him. So, after displaying his strength, Shi Yun let everyone step down. Hearing Shi Yun's words, Chun Nanchi stood up as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. He bowed towards Shi Yun, then immediately walked out of the hall. Naturally, Tang Ao and the others were not willing to stay there for long. So, they quickly followed their seventh great-uncle. In the instant that they walked out of the hall, Tang Ao arrived at the empty space from before. Tang Ao turned his head around and looked. Shi Yun was still sitting upright in the small room. Xiao Yu stood beside Shi Yun like a loyal bodyguard. At this moment, Tang Ao really wanted to use heavenly polar eyes to investigate the profoundness of Shi Yun's thatched cottage. However, after some thought, Tang Ao did not do so. Right now, Tang Ao and Shi Yun did not have too much of conflict. So, Tang Ao did not dare to provoke this Muddy Heaven Realm existence. He was certain that he could not use spiritual power in this place. However, it was hard to say whether Shi Yun could use immortal origin power or not. As soon as they left Shi Yun's house, seventh granduncle, second mother, and that blind warrior tacitly left in one direction. Zhongshan also said something to Tang Ao and the rest before leaving the place. After Zhongshan left, Lin Hu walked over and went straight to the front of Situ, Qianqian, and Tang Ao. Senior brother Tang Ao, although we have joined young Master Shi Yun, Qingyun village still needs a village chief. Since senior brother Tang Ao has already agreed to become the village chief of Qingyun village, I invite senior brother Tang Ao to stay in the small house under the big locust tree at the center of the village. That is the exclusive residence of the village chief of Qingyun village. In the future, senior brother Tang Ao will live and cultivate in that place. Lin was not as excited as Zhongshan about joining Shi Yun village. Even though he had obtained a cultivation method like the heavenly essence technique, Lin Hu was not in a hurry to cultivate it. Tang Ao secretly nodded in his heart. Compared to Zhongshan and the rest, Lin Hu might be a little silly, but Lin Hu's temperament was the best. In order to become a peerless powerhouse, apart from heaven-defying martial Dao talent and amazing opportunities, the temperament of a powerhouse was also indispensable. The world of martial Dao never lacked geniuses. However, most of these geniuses would die prematurely before they could grow into powerhouses. Chapter 1336. At this time, Situ, Qianqian naughtily knocked on Lin Hu's head. You still remember that you are in charge of patrolling this month. You could go patrolling. It's not like I don't know the way. I will bring senior brother Tang Ao there in a while. Following Situ, Qianqian, and Lin Hu's banter, the heavy atmosphere in Shi Yun's thatched cottage immediately dissipated. After Lin Hu was knocked by Situ Qianqian, he looked at Situ Qianqian and giggled, causing Situ Qianqian's face to turn red. What are you looking at? Do you think I'm that good looking? Situ Qianqian and Lin, who could be considered childhood sweethearts. The two grew up together, cultivated together, and were very familiar with each other. I couldn't tell before, but now that Qianqian has grown up, she is really good looking. Facing Situ Qianqian's question, Lin Hu honestly replied. Tang Ao was secretly speechless, and Lin Hu's words naturally caused Situ Qianqian to become angry and wanted to hit him. But this time, Lin Hu was smarter. His figure flashed, and he retreated 3 zhang away. Senior brother Tang Ao, let's say our goodbyes here. When you have time, I will definitely exchange pointers with you. Lin Hu said as he jogged away from the place. Well said. Tang Ao also responded with a hearty smile. Senior brother Tang Ao, let's go to Scholar Tree residence. After Lin Hu left, Situ Qianqian said to Tang Ao, Scholar Tree residence? The village chief's residence is called Scholar Tree Residence. Tang Ao did not expect that the village chief's residence in Qingyun village would have such an elegant name. Yes, come with me, Situ Qianqian said as she pulled Tang Ao's sleeve and walked towards a certain place. Walking through Qingyun village, one could see thatch cottages being built everywhere. Because of the beast tide, most of the thatch cottages in Qingyun village were destroyed. Situ Qianqian was very popular in Qingyun village, so when Situ Qianqian pulled Tang Ao toward Scholar Tree House, many people greeted Situ Qianqian. From time to time, people would find some food from the collapsed houses and hand it over to Situ Qianqian. However, they were all politely declined by Situ Qianqian. It was not that Situ Qianqian despised them, but it was really not easy for ordinary people to obtain food in the dragon-subduing caves. Situ Qianqian was a martial artist at the 5th level of the body refining realm. Naturally, she could not easily take the food of the villagers. However, every time Situ Qianqian hunted a wild boar, she would bring it back to the village and share it with the villagers. Sister Qianqian, here's some candy for you. When they passed by another collapsed house, a 5 or 6-year-old little girl saw Situ Qianqian and put down the straw she was holding. She ran up to Situ Qianqian and took out a fruit candy from her pocket to give to Situ Qianqian. Seeing the little girl, Situ Qianqian smiled happily and hugged the little girl. He is so sensible. You even know how to help father and mother hold the straw. You can leave the candy for to eat. And Sister Qianqian can eat too, okay? The little girl blinked her large eyes and handed over the candy in her hand again. However, after the little hand straightened, let out a cry of pain. Promptly, Tang Ao scanned with his soul remembrance and found that Yi's arm was wrapped in gauze. A trace of fresh blood was imprinted on the gauze. Clearly, he had been injured in the previous beast tide. Situ Qianqian naturally found that Yi's arm was injured, so she asked with concern, what's wrong? Perhaps because she touched the wound, tears began to well up in little Yi's large eyes. However, she, who had grown up in Qingyun village, was much stronger than the children of other places. Chapter 1337. Tang Ao smiled and came to little Yi's side. Little Yi was a little nervous when she saw Tang Ao. Little Yi had never seen Tang Ao in Qingyun village, and every time a stranger came to Qingyun village, nothing good would come out of it. Therefore, before Tang Ao could say anything, little Yi had already labeled him as a bad guy. This is senior brother Tang Ao. He is now the village chief of Qingyun village. Situ Qianqian also saw the fear in Yi's eyes, so she smiled and said to Yi. Hearing Situ Qianqian say that Tang Ao was now the village chief of Qingyun village, little Yi's eyes flashed with doubt. She then asked Tang Ao, Big brother Tang Ao, are you more powerful than Big Sister Mu? Big Sister Mu? Tang Ao looked at Situ Qianqian with a puzzled expression. Regarding the people in the Qingyun village, Tang Ao didn't know much about them. The people he was most familiar with were Situ Qianqian and Lin Hu. In addition, Zhongshan, Chen Nanqi, and the others could only be considered acquaintances. As for the Big Sister Mu that Yi mentioned, this was the first time Tang Ao had heard of her. Just as Situ Qianqian was about to tell Tang Ao about Big Sister Mu, a beautiful woman in a white tasseled dress happened to walk over from a distance. The beautiful woman's long hair cascaded down her back like a waterfall and was simply tied up with a piece of silk. Her skin was whiter than snow, and her features were picturesque. As she walked, she looked like a fairy from the Moon Palace. Although Situ Qianqian was also very beautiful, Situ Qianqian could only be considered a beautiful girl. However, the woman in front of him was a peerless beauty. Little Yi, who had been very strong just a moment ago, burst into tears when she saw the woman passing by. This scene stunned Tang Ao, and little Yi's crying attracted the beautiful woman's attention. Elder Sister Mu, Yi's hand is bleeding again. Yi complained tearfully when she saw the beautiful woman looking at her. Seeing Yi's expression, Mu Yang smiled slightly. Why are you crying again? Didn't I just help you bandage it yesterday? Come, big sister has a look. What happened to again? Perhaps it was because women had the radiance of motherhood. Or perhaps it was because women liked cute children like Yi. Therefore, after seeing Yi, both Situ Qianqian and Mu Yang liked her very much. Even without Situ Qianqian's introduction, Tang Ao knew that the person in front of him was Big Sister Mu. Seeing Tang Ao staring at Mu Yang, Situ Qianqian pouted in dissatisfaction, but before Situ Qianqian could speak, Tang Ao looked away. Tang Ao's action immediately made Situ Qianqian click her tongue in wonder. Because in the past, when those men saw Mu Yang, their eyes could no longer move away from Mu Yang. However, after Tang Ao saw Mu Yang, he only looked at him for a moment and did not continue to stare at Mu Yang. Moreover, from Tang Ao's clear eyes, Situ Qianqian could see that Tang Ao really did not want to continue to stare at Mu Yang, and it was not an act. Chapter 1338. Unfortunately, whether it was La Kale, Chu Shuahan, or in Ruosu, they were all entangled with Tang Ao. Therefore, Tang Ao's immunity to beautiful women was really high. But even so, when he first saw Mu Yang, Tang Ao still stared at Mu Yang for a while. Because although the appearance of several people was equal, if they were to compare their figures, Chu Shuahan and the other little girls were much worse than Mu Yang in front of them. Tang Ao had no doubt that Mu Yang's graceful figure could really make people fall in love with him. At this time, Mu Yang rolled up Yi's sleeves, and immediately Tang Ao and Situ Qianqian saw that Yi's arm was wrapped with a roll of gauze, and there was blood oozing out of the gauze at this moment. Yi, close your eyes. Sister will help you sprinkle a little more hemostatic powder. After seeing Yi's wound and blood oozing out, Mu Yang immediately said to Yi in a soft voice. But before Mu Yang said anything, Yi had already closed her big eyes. Obviously, the child was very afraid of bleeding. Even if it was herself who was injured, she did not dare to look at her own wound. Yi's appearance made Tang Ao and the other two laugh. At this time, Mu Yang naturally also noticed the existence of Tang Ao. However, Mu Yang just glanced at Tang Ao and did not speak to Tang Ao. Tang Ao saw that Mu Yang skillfully opened the gauze on Yi's hand, and then took out a jade bottle from the medicine box behind him. There was some white powder in the jade bottle. The moment Mu Yang opened the jade bottle, Tang Ao smelled the powder in the jade bottle. Immediately Tang Ao shook his head. No, 2 kinds of spiritual herbs are missing, King Kong, Rattan, and Zixia leaf. Hearing Tang Ao's words, Mu Yang's hand trembled, and he almost took the jade bottle away. What makes you say that the King Kong vine and purple cloud leaf are missing? When Tang Ao said that the Vajra vine and the Zixia leaf were missing, Mu Yang was sure that the Qianjin blood-staunching powder was missing these 2 kinds of spiritual herbs. The formula for the 1,000 gold blood-staunching powder was discovered by a martialist in a ruin in Evergreen Valley. When Mu Yang saw this prescription in the market, he immediately bought it at a high price. Although the Gilead gold blood-staunching powder was only an incomplete formula, its curative effect was better than all the other blood-staunching powders Mu Yang knew. Therefore, even though it was only an incomplete formula, Mu Yang had been using it to treat the villagers of Qingyun village and the surrounding villages, as well as some warriors who came because of its fame. Since he got the prescription, Mu Yang had been studying it whenever he had time. After so many years of research, Mu Yang found that there were not many missing parts in this incomplete prescription. Only 2 kinds of spiritual herbs were missing, and the King Kong Rattan still had the word gold on the formula. However, there were too many spiritual herbs with the word gold in their names, so Mu Yang knew that the word gold represented the King Kong Rattan not long ago. Of course, Mu Yang also knew that in addition to the King Kong Rattan, the Gilead gold blood-staunching powder was still missing a kind of spiritual herb. But Mu Yang had no clue what this spiritual herb was. He didn't expect that today a stranger would know it. Chapter 1339. The so-called Gilead gold hemostata powder was created by the Shinnong Emperor. As the successor of the Shinnong Emperor, Tang Ao received the inheritance of the Shinnong Emperor, so he could speak eloquently. Looking at Tang Ao's calm appearance, Muyang was shocked by Tang Ao. Muyang had learned medical skills from his parents since he was a child. After obtaining the Gilead blood-staunching powder, he had studied it for a long time before he found out that the Gilead blood-staunching powder lacked one kind of spirit herb, the Vajra vine. But now, Tang Ao just smelled the Gilead blood-staunching powder and accurately said which two kinds of spirit herbs were missing. Was he a monster? Even so, Muyang still didn't ask the question in his heart, because Muyang had never seen Tang Ao in the village of Qingyun before. Besides, Muyang never had the habit of talking to strangers. So although Tang Ao pointed out the problem of Muyang's Gilead gold hemostatic powder, Muyang just looked at Tang Ao and didn't continue to talk to Tang Ao. After carefully applying the powder on Yi's wound, Muyang took out a clean gauze from the medicine box and bandaged Yi's wound. After applying the powder, Yi only felt cool on her arm, which was very comfortable. Therefore, Yi happily kissed Muyang's smooth and tender face, which made all the men around envious and jealous, but they couldn't do anything about it. Take care of yourself. I'm leaving. Muyang got up, touched Yi's little head, and was about to leave. But at this time, Yi suddenly thought of something. Sister Mu, brother Tang Ao, is the current village head of Qingyun village that seventh uncle mentioned. Yi said, pointing to Tang Ao. The original village chief of Qingyun village was seventh uncle, but because of his old age, Muyang took over as the acting village chief. Not long ago, seventh great uncle said that he had found a warrior named Tang Ao from the Qingyun Union to be the village chief. Many people in Qingyun village already knew about this, but everyone only knew the name Tang Ao. They didn't know who Tang Ao was. Now that he heard Yi's words, Tang Ao instantly became the focus of everyone present. Everyone was sizing up Tang Ao while talking at the same time. This person is Tang Ao. What's so great about him? He's just a little kid. I heard that during the beast tide in Qingyun village, he killed a venomous feathered beast alone. Are you serious? It doesn't look like it. Everyone's voices naturally fell into Tang Ao's ears. Tang Ao originally wanted to learn about the situation of Qingyun village at Scholartree House, and then gather the villagers of Qingyun village to discuss the development of Qingyun village. He didn't expect that he would be recognized by everyone before he even arrived at Scholartree House. Hello everyone, I am Tang Ao. From today onwards, I am the current village chief of Qingyun village. This was the first time Tang Ao took the position of village chief, but Tang Ao was not bashful. Tang Ao had the Xiaoyao token in his hand. In the future, when he went to Zhenwujia, he would be the leader of the Xiaoyao sect. Now, how could a mere village chief scare Tang Ao away? But what Tang Ao didn't expect was that after he finished introducing himself, Muyang directly waved his hand and said, "The beast tide has just passed. Everyone go back to what you were doing." Chapter 1340. Tang Ao silently thought that beautiful women were powerful. Before, when Tang Ao was facing Shi Dingyun, a peak expert at the turbid sky realm, he was still able to stabilize his mind. However, when facing a delicate and weak woman like Muyang, Tang Ao's mind was shaken. Of course, Muyang wasn't a delicate and weak woman. Although Muyang hid her cultivation, Tang Ao could still see that Muyang's cultivation was at the 7th level of the body refining realm. The 7th level of the body refining realm wasn't very strong, but Tang Ao could feel through his soul remembrance that Muyang's bone age was only 20-something years old. In other words, compared to Tang Ao, Muyang was only a 20-something-year-old girl. Although Tang Ao looked like a 20-something-year-old youth, if Tang Ao's two lives were added together, Tang Ao was already a 10,000-year-old monster. Since you exist, then find a place near Scholartree House to live. While Tang Ao was still in a daze, Muyang coldly said to Tang Ao, Mu Yang and Yi had been extremely gentle just now, but when it came to Tang Ao, they were ice cold. This caused Tang Ao to silently complain about the unfairness. Isn't Scholar Tree House where the village chief lives? Tang Ao hadn't complained for long when he suddenly thought of this matter. Hearing Tang Ao's question, Mu Yang was a bit stunned, but she immediately blinked her beautiful eyes and said to Tang Ao, "Yes, Scholar Tree House is indeed where the village chief lives. Since you're here, I'm the village chief and you're the vice village chief. Of course, when I'm not here, you could be the acting village chief." After Mu Yang finished speaking, she ignored Tang Ao and continued to walk in another direction with her medicine chest. There was an injured, middle-aged man with a pained expression. Mu Yang was clearly going to save that person. But after hearing Mu Yang's words, Tang Ao was stunned. He was supposed to be the village head. How could he be the deputy as soon as he took office? Brother Tang Ao, don't be in a daze. Sister Mu Yang has already left. Situ Qianqian waved her small hand in front of Tang Ao and pulled the shocked Tang Ao back. I've become a deputy village head? Tang Ao still couldn't believe it as he asked. Until now, Tang Ao still felt that it was too sudden. Tang Ao had originally planned to do something big in Qingyan village, but now things had turned out like this. Before he could even use his fists and legs, he was hit in the head with a stick. What? You're still not willing? I don't know how many people in Qingyan village want to be close to Sister Mu Yang. Now you're the deputy village chief. You live next to Sister Mu Yang, and you can see Sister Mu Yang every day. You should be happy. After Situ Qianqian finished speaking, she took the lead and walked in a direction. After walking for a while, she realized that Tang Ao hadn't come. Situ Qianqian waved at Tang Ao and said, "Brother Tang Ao, hurry up. Weren't you very clever when dealing with the demonic beasts? Why are you so silly now?" Tang Ao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What did she mean by silly? But Tang Ao still followed Situ Qianqian in the direction of the Scholar Tree House. The more they walked in the direction of the Scholar Tree House, the more messy the surroundings became. This time, the beast tide occurred in the southeast of Qingyun village, so the Scholar Tree House was not spared. Along the way, Tang Ao saw many corpses of the victims of the beast tide that hadn't been cleaned up in time. Lin Hu, who had left earlier, was also there. Chapter 1341. Even if Tang Ao couldn't find the Scholar Tree House, Situ Qianqian would definitely be able to find it. That was why Tang Ao hadn't arrived at the Scholar Tree House yet. He must have been delayed by something. I was on the way to the Scholar Tree House and happened to see you, so I stopped by. Why haven't the deceased villagers' funeral arrangements been taken care of? Tang Ao thought that after such a long time, Qingyun village should have been rebuilt. But what Tang Ao didn't expect was that this place was still in the process of being rebuilt. Qingyun village originally had 10 guards, but now only me, Uncle Zhongshan, and Junior Qianqian are left. Uncle Zhongshan is recuperating, and Junior Qianqian is also injured, so I have to organize these things. Also, there are some wandering monsters in the village. Although these monsters aren't strong, ordinary people can't deal with them. So when I find a monster, I have to go and deal with it immediately. Because of this, the aftermath has not been completed, Lin Hu said to Tang Ao helplessly. After listening to Lin Hu, Tang Ao thought for a moment. Then he said, "How about this? Gather all the guards in the village." Lin Hu stared blankly. Although he didn't know what Tang Ao wanted to do, he still nodded. In the previous battles, whether it was against the poison-feathered monster or the striped leopard, Tang Ao always took the lead, so Lin Hu admired Tang Ao very much. There weren't many guards in Qingyun village. After a while, Tang Ao saw a group of people behind Lin Hu walking toward him lazily. After seeing this group of people, Tang Ao smiled. With this group of subordinates, he couldn't be fast even if he wanted to. But Tang Ao had a way to deal with these lazy people. After everyone gathered around, Tang Ao stood on a high platform and loudly said, "The currency in circulation in the Hidden Dragon Crypt is gold, silver, copper, and essence-augmenting pills. As guards, How much money can you get in a month? Tang Ao had an understanding of the currency circulating in the hidden dragon crypt, but he had no idea how much the village guard were paid each month. No one could not live with money. This was an unchanging truth since ancient times. Therefore, when Tang Ao mentioned their monthly allowance, most people's eyes lit up. They were obviously interested in Tang Ao. The person standing at the front said, "The guard team has a commander and members. The commander gets 10 low-grade vitality augmenting pills and 100 silver coins every month. Each member gets 1 low-grade vitality augmenting pill every month, 10 silver coins." All right. After the man finished speaking, Tang Ao immediately said, "I'm Tang Ao. From now on, I'll be the deputy village head of Qingyun village." When Tang Ao mentioned the deputy village head, he felt a bit depressed. But Tang Ao didn't feel depressed for too long and continued, "My management is a bit different from the previous management because under my management, everyone's monthly allowance isn't fixed." Seeing that everyone was a bit confused, Tang Ao continued, "Everyone might not understand what I just said, so I'll explain it in detail. That is to say, under my management, even if you're an ordinary member, your monthly allowance can reach 10 low-grade vitality augmenting pills and 100 silver coins or even higher." When Tang Ao said this, everyone immediately perked up. 10 low-grade vitality augmenting pills and 100 silver coins wasn't a small sum. According to what they thought their monthly allowance was, it instantly increased by 10 times. This meant that they who only dared to go to the marketplace to drink once or twice a month in the past could go to the marketplace to drink for half a month in the future. And Tang Ao just said that there was no upper limit to the monthly allowance. That meant that 10 low-grade vitality augmenting pills and 100 silver coins weren't the limit. Their monthly allowance could be even higher. Chapter 1342. Although this cultivation level was ridiculously low, when Tang Ao looked at these guards and saw that many of them were still ordinary people, Tang Ao felt that his cultivation level was not bad. "Everyone quiet down and listen to me." Since someone had taken the initiative to ask, Tang Ao continued. After the crowd quieted down, Tang Ao continued, "Just now I said that there is no upper limit to the monthly allowance, but there's a lower limit. Then the lower limit is no vitality cultivating pills and no silver coins every month." When Tang Ao said this, everyone was instantly unhappy. But before they could vent their emotions, Tang Ao immediately said, "But as long as you listen to my arrangements, I guarantee that your monthly allowance will be higher, and it will be impossible to have none. Let's do it." Village Chief Tang Ao, tell us, what do you want us to do? A young martial artist clearly could not resist the temptation of money and stepped out from the crowd to ask. Very simple. In this month, you only need to do 3 things. The first thing is for everyone to go cultivate, and after a month, check your cultivation progress. I looked at everyone just now, and there are a total of 40 people here. Among them, there are 11 at the first level of the body refining realm, and 3 at the second level of the body refining realm. Coincidentally, there are 14 martial artists and 26 people who have never cultivated before. But I feel that these people are too many. So on this day next month, a quarter of the people here will leave. That is to say, 10 people will leave the guards of our Qingyun village. But everyone, don't worry. Tang Ao will not let you leave for nothing. Those who leave, each person will be able to receive 3 times the monthly allowance." When Tang Ao said that 10 of these 40 people would leave the guards were a little dissatisfied. But after hearing Tang Ao's words, they were instantly speechless. If those who left could receive 3 times the monthly allowance, then it was hard to imagine how much the people who stayed would receive. It might really be like what Tang Ao said, that there was no upper limit. In a month, those at the second level of the body, refining realm, who have not broken through to the third level of the body, refining realm, can leave. Martial artists at the first level of the body, refining realm, who had not broken through to the second level of the body, refining realm, also left on their own. If a teammate who had never trained before was unable to reach the first level of the body refining realm after a month, then there was no need to continue staying. Of course, if these conditions are met after 1 month, then the 10 people with the least improvement will be allowed to leave. The rest will each be given 10 low-grade vitality augmenting pills and 100 silver coins. If you make great progress, you can increase it at your discretion. There's no upper limit. All right, Village Chief Tang Ao, we'll listen to you. But this is only the first thing. Didn't you just say that there are 3 things to do? Previously, there were people in the guard team who worked hard, but there were also people who were lazy. However, most people were hardworking. Even those who were lazy would not make life difficult for gold coins. Therefore, after Tang Ao proposed such a system, everyone was still very supportive of Tang Ao. Tang Ao was naturally very satisfied with this effect, so Tang Ao cleared his throat and continued. Now, let's talk about the second thing. That is for those who have not trained before to assist junior brother Lin, who with all your might. Take care of all the corpses of the villagers who had died. As for those who have trained before, follow me and sweep away all the demonic beasts in Qingyan village like a net. Do you all understand? After Tang Ao finished speaking, he asked the crowd below. Everyone had originally thought that it would be something difficult because the first thing Tang Ao said was not simple. Who would have thought that the second thing would be such a simple matter? In such a situation, the crowd naturally wouldn't have any problems. Even those martial artists who followed Tang Ao to deal with the demonic beasts didn't have any objections in their hearts. Chapter 1343. The third thing is for everyone to give me a detailed report of the information in Qingyan village. Include how many people are in the village, how many martial artists are there, and how many martial artists are there. Secondly, in Qingyan village, how many medicine fields are there, what is the level of the medicine fields, how many elixirs are planted in the medicine fields, as well as the source of income of Qingyan village and other information should be detailed statistics for me. Although the third thing was easier than the first two, Tang Ao wanted to say that the third thing was the most important. After accepting Qingyan village, Tang Ao's previous plan to draw a topographic map could only be put on hold for now. With a village in hand, Tang Ao would definitely be able to create enough wealth in a short period of time. Tang Ao was an alchemy master, a blacksmith, and a formation master. Therefore, as long as the cultivation of the village guards increased, they could enter the Evergreen Valley to look for spiritual materials. The higher their cultivation, the higher their chances of finding high-grade and rare spiritual materials. Although there were many spiritual materials in Tang Ao's storage ring, spiritual materials from the outside world were basically useless after entering the Flying Star continent. Therefore, even if Tang Ao wanted to forge weapons, set up formations, and refine elixirs, he could only use the spiritual materials that grew on the Flying Star continent. According to Tang Ao's understanding of the Evergreen Valley, there must be high-grade spiritual materials in the depths of the Evergreen Valley. However, Tang Ao's current cultivation was too shocking, so Tang Ao did not plan to go deep into the Evergreen Valley. Since everyone understands, let's start dividing the work. Also, all the demon beasts hunted in the village have to be handed in. Of course, your contributions will be strictly graded and added to your monthly allowance. No problem. We will listen to Chief Tang Ao. Okay, the martial artists come with me. The other team members follow Lin, who to do things here. After Tang Ao finished speaking, he led a group of martial artists to the north of the forbidden Qingyan village. Through Situ Qianqian's reminder, Tang Ao knew that searching from the north of Qingyan village to the south of Qingyan village was the easiest way to search the entire Qingyan village. When Tang Ao's group arrived at the north of Qingyan village, they heard an earth-shaking roar coming from the forest not far ahead. Hearing this roar, everyone's expression changed. Situ Qianqian also hurriedly said to Tang Ao, "Senior brother Tang Ao, it sounds like the saber-toothed tiger. It's in that forest." Hearing this roar, Tang Ao could only smile bitterly. Tang Ao felt that his luck was really bad. Last time, he had encountered a striped leopard. This time, he actually encountered a saber-toothed tiger. Fortunately, the saber-toothed tiger had appeared in the forest outside the village. Tang Ao did not need to immediately start a battle with this saber-toothed tiger. "You guys wait here, I'll go take a look." After speaking to the group of martial artists that followed him, Tang Ao went into the woods alone. Tang Ao did not directly rush into the forest. This forest was too dense. Apart from the endless, lush trees, there were also shrubs that were half the height of a person. This forest seemed to be not far from Qingyun village. However, when Tang Ao approached the forest, Tang Ao discovered that this forest was actually outside of Qingyun village's security perimeter. However, because Qingyun village had encountered a beast tide not long ago, everyone was very nervous. After hearing the roar of the saber-toothed tiger in this forest, everyone became abnormally vigilant. Chapter 1344. On the Phasian continent, all spirit herbs were classified into 9 stars. Generally speaking, in the outside world, spirit herbs from 1 to 3 stars were more common. Spirit herbs after 3 stars were gradually rarer. And in this forest, there were many low-level spirit herbs of 2 stars, 3 stars, and very rare 4-star spirit herbs. If it was outside the hidden dragon caves, such a discovery would not be considered a discovery at all. Because the Phasian continent was too vast, there were all kinds of famous mountains and rivers. As long as a warrior had the slightest bit of strength, they could basically use as many of these spirit herbs as they wanted. But in the hidden dragon crypt, only Evergreen Valley had spirit herbs. The spirit herbs in the other places were basically planted by martial artists. It was obviously not that easy to obtain spirit herbs. But under such circumstances, Tang Ao actually found spirit herbs in this forest. Other than that, Tang Ao also found a kind of white flower in this forest. This kind of flower was only the height of a palm. It had a slightly tough emerald green stem and no leaves. Tang Ao was sure that this was the first time he had seen such a small white flower after coming to the Hidden Dragon Cave for so long. There weren't many of these small flowers, and they were like sparse stars that dotted the forest. Tang Ao did not know if it was because of this flower, but there was not a single magic flower in the entire Hidden Dragon Caves here. Tang Ao was a little excited, although Tang Ao was not sure of the value of his discovery. But Tang Ao firmly believed that his discovery was definitely valuable. Thinking of this, Tang Ao moved his mind and released the Jade-Bone Life Spirit. Dots of green light began to dance on Tang Ao's palm, like flying fireflies dancing on Tang Ao's palm. Tang Ao obviously didn't summon the Jade-Bone Vitality Life Soul for fun. He wanted to confirm if there was any poison in the forest or if there was anything abnormal. After Tang Ao summoned the Jade-Bone Life Spirit, the wisps of green aura in the surrounding white flowers were attracted by the Jade-Bone Life Spirit and flew over. Feeling the exuberant aura, Tang Ao was amazed. And after absorbing this vitality, the Jade-Bone Life Spirit's aura was gradually getting stronger. After feeling the change of the Jade-Bone Life Spirit, Tang Ao was overjoyed. Now that Tang Ao's Soul C was shattered, the Jade-Bone Life Spirit had been in an extremely weak state. The vitality aura in these white flowers could revitalize the Jade-Bone Life Spirit, which was a good thing for Tang Ao. This was because Tang Ao's Jade-Bone Life Spirit could be used to repair Tang Ao's Soul C and Spirit C. However, the Jade-Bone Life Spirit relied on Tang Ao's Spirit C and Soul C. Therefore, after Tang Ao's Spirit C and Soul C shattered, Tang Ao had never thought of using the Jade-Bone Life Spirit to repair his shattered Spirit C and Soul C. But now, Tang Ao never expected such a special situation to exist. After Tang Ao's constant strengthening, the Jade-Bone Life Spirit had reached the 29th firmament. However, due to Tang Ao's serious injuries, the Jade-Bone Life Spirit could only unleash the power of the 7th firmament. Chapter 1345. For example, if Tang Ao's J-Bone Life Force Life Soul could be restored to the 29th level, then Tang Ao would need at most half a year to completely restore his Soul C and Spiritual C. As long as his Soul C and Spiritual C were completely restored, Tang Ao's Nine Dragons Emperor Jade body would be able to reach its peak state. Although the Flying Star Continent was a fragment of the divine King Yun Xing's Tao world, it could not restrain the Nine Dragons Emperor Jade body at its peak state. However, Tang Ao had no way of knowing these secrets. After all, Tang Ao had been continuously injured ever since he awakened the Nine Dragons Emperor's Jade physique. Even Tang Ao himself didn't know much about the Nine Dragons Emperor's Jade physique. However, this was not what Tang Ao was concerned about now. What Tang Ao was most concerned about was what kind of spirit herb these small white flowers were. How could they have such a heaven-defying effect? At the same time, how did these small white flowers grow? Could they be transplanted or cultivated? What kind of nutrients did they need? Just as Tang Ao was puzzled, Tang Ao suddenly saw a small, fluffy dandelion seed floating in the air into the forest. Tang Ao had been in the Hidden Dragon Cave for a long time, so he naturally knew that these dandelion seed-like fluffy dandelions were not dandelions at all. They were illusion flower seeds. Now that Tang Ao's cultivation level had reached the 5th stage of the body refining realm, the illusion flower's poison no longer had any effect on Tang Ao. Even the illusion flower poison that entered Tang Ao's body could be devoured and refined by Tang Ao's J-Bone Life Force Life Soul before being turned into Essence Chi for Tang Ao. Although it was just a drop in the bucket, one had to admit that in the Hidden Dragon Cave, Tang Ao was the only warrior whose cultivation level was constantly increasing. This was because, apart from this strange forest, the other places in the Hidden Dragon Cave were basically filled with illusion flower poison. Now that Tang Ao saw the illusion flower seeds floating over, Tang Ao felt very strange. This was because Tang Ao had carefully observed that there were no fantasy flowers in this forest at all. Tang Ao also knew that the fantasy flower survivability was very strong. As long as it was attached to a place with essence energy, it would be able to survive. However, for some reason, there were no illusion flowers in this forest. Now that he saw the illusion flower seeds flying in, Tang Ao immediately activated his sky polarity eyes and carefully observed the trajectory of the illusion flower seeds. Although Tang Ao didn't have a good impression of the fantasy flower, Tang Ao couldn't help but sigh at how powerful it was. Even the seeds of the illusion flower would strike one with a sense of dizziness if one were to stare at them with their naked eyes or soul power for an extended period of time. Therefore, after Tang Ao activated his skypolar eyes, a cold feeling instantly enveloped Tang Ao's entire body. The slightly dizzy Tang Ao was instantly energized. At this moment, the world around him was crystal clear in Tang Ao's eyes, and it even glowed with a faint blue hue. With his sky polarity eyes, Tang Ao had a panoramic view of the entire forest. It only took one glance for Tang Ao to be stunned. This was because this forest was actually a natural ceiling formation. Having experienced the Emperor Hades' secret realm and the Xitigarbus cemetery, Tang Ao was very familiar with natural formations like this. Moreover, Tang Ao's formation skills were taught by the 9th grade immortal array master Yin Xiaoyao. Naturally, his attainments in formations went without saying. Tang Ao felt that without the skypole gaze, Yin Xiaoyao's legacy of formations, and a lack of understanding of natural formations, even a celestial turbid realm cultivator would not be able to recognize this natural formation if they were here. Chapter 1346. The roar that Tang Ao heard in the forest earlier had disappeared without a trace, as if the saber-toothed tiger did not exist at all. Tang Ao's sky polar eyes had almost penetrated the entire forest, but he still did not find any trace of the saber-toothed tiger. Instead, as the breeze blew, more and more magic flower seeds were blown into the forest. After the fantasy flower seeds were blown into the forest by the wind, Tang Ao was surprised to see that these small white flowers that dotted the forest were actually emitting a special wave. Under the guidance of this wave, the magic flower seeds all floated towards the white flowers. Then, Tang Ao saw a shocking scene. A subtle wave was emitted from the white flowers, and then the essence of the magic flower seeds was extracted by the white flowers. In the end, it turned into a pair of powder that fell to the roots of the white flowers as fertilizer. At this point, Tang Ao completely understood why there were no magic flowers in this forest. The reason for that was because this unknown white flower was the natural enemy of the illusion flowers. Due to the uniqueness of the magic flower seeds, even if the seeds were shattered by primordial chi, the magic flowers could still grow after falling to the ground. Moreover, the magic flowers in the hidden dragon crypt were endless. Even if one could not get rid of all the magic flowers, it was impossible to destroy all the magic flower seeds. Before this, Tang Ao had always thought so. But now, after seeing the power of this unknown white flower, Tang Ao completely changed his mind. At this time, all things in the world were mutually reinforcing and restraining each other. Tang Ao had never seen this kind of white flower anywhere else, which meant that this white flower grew in a very special environment. Otherwise, with its ability to devour the magic flower's seeds as nourishment, it would at least be on par with the magic flower in the hidden dragon crypt. But so far, this was the first time Tang Ao had seen this kind of unknown white flower. Just as Tang Ao was wondering if he should bring one of these white flowers to Qingyun village to ask about it, the chaotic hexagram mirror on Tang Ao's neck suddenly trembled. Then, a golden jade scroll flew out of the chaotic hexagram mirror. Tang Ao reached out and grabbed the jade slip that flew out. He was secretly amazed. Tang Ao had obtained the Primal Chaos 6 Light Mirror for a very long time. In his previous life, after Tang Ao obtained the Primal Chaos 6 Light Mirror, he studied it for 1,000 years, but to no avail. In this life, Tang Ao had also spent a lot of time researching the Primal Chaos 6 Light Mirror. However, apart from discovering that he could escape into the space of the Primal Chaos 6 Light Mirror, Tang Ao did not discover much else. However, Tang Ao's cultivation technique, the ancient god moving sky technique, to the heaven evolution record, and now this golden scroll, had all flown out of the Primal Chaos 6 Light Mirror space. Moreover, anything that flew out of the chaotic hexagram mirror space was not ordinary. Therefore, Tang Ao was looking forward to this golden jade slip. This was not the first time that Tang Ao had been to the Primal Chaos Hex Light Mirror. But now that Tang Ao was in the Primal Chaos Hexagram mirror space, other than the space around him, Tang Ao's eyes were still in chaos. Even if Tang Ao used the sky-polar eyes to investigate, he still could not see anything. Of course, these things could only be slowly explored by Tang Ao in the future. Right now, Tang Ao was most concerned about these unknown, mysterious flowers. Chapter 1347. Starflower. What a tyrannical name. With a single glance, Tang Ao was certain that the small white flowers dotting the forest were the star flowers recorded on the golden scroll. At this time, Tang Ao also understood that this golden scroll should be an immortal artifact with no grade. The reason why it had no grade was because Tang Ao couldn't sense anything apart from the fluctuations of an immortal artifact. After confirming that these palm-sized small white flowers were star flowers, Tang Ao began to study the contents recorded on the scroll. Through the golden scroll's records, Tang Ao shockingly discovered that this starflower was a spirit herb of the immemorial era. The so-called immemorial era was a special era synonymous with power. Although an astral-reaching expert could shake the heavens and earth in the black-yellow continent, if placed in the immemorial era, astral-reaching experts could be said to be at the bottom of the food chain. After obtaining Hades' Emperor's memory inheritance, Tang Ao had some understanding of the immemorial era. During that era, Muddy sky experts could be seen everywhere, and Dao sovereigns were not rare either. Just thinking about it made Tang Ao somewhat excited. However, after thinking about his current situation, Tang Ao could only shake his head with a bitter smile. Now, that Tang Ao had fallen into such a predicament, not to mention those legendary realms. Even if he could recover to the life and death realm, it was still unknown. If it were before encountering Shi Tianyun, Tang Ao would still be quite confident. However, after encountering Shi Tianyun, Tang Ao was somewhat lacking in confidence. Because Shi Tianyun, a peerless muddy sky expert, was trapped in the flying star continent. How good could a puny life and death expert like him be? Fortunately, Tang Ao wasn't a person who gave up easily. Therefore, even under such circumstances, Tang Ao didn't give up hope. In particular, the appearance of the star flower allowed Tang Ao to see a glimmer of light in the darkness. It was just that the star flower had existed for far too long. Even though the golden scroll in Tang Ao's hands was extremely heaven-defying, it didn't have many records of the star flower. Therefore, if Tang Ao wanted to use the stellar flower to restore his jade bone life soul, he needed Tang Ao to slowly figure out the characteristics of the stellar flower. With a flick of his hand, Tang Ao closed the golden scroll. At this time, Tang Ao also saw the name of the golden scroll. The name of the golden scroll was very strange. It only had one word, grass. This name was simply too common. It didn't match the heaven-defying nature of the primordial spirit grass. However, after Tang Ao thought about it, he realized that this name was quite suitable. After thinking for a while, Tang Ao couldn't think of a more suitable name. Tang Ao stopped thinking about the golden scroll and focused his attention on the starflower again. The starflower was indeed like its name. It was like stars dotting the forest. Seeing the fantasy flower seeds constantly being swept away by the starflower like moths flying into a flame, Tang Ao was secretly puzzled. According to the characteristics of the starflower, it should be everywhere in the dragon's subduing caves where fantasy flowers were everywhere. However, Tang Ao hadn't seen the starflower anywhere else despite having been in the dragon's subduing caves for so long. Therefore, Tang Ao speculated that although the starflower was the fantasy flower's natural enemy, the starflower's living environment should be very special. Therefore, in the dragon's subduing caves, only this natural restriction array had the starflower. There were no other places. With this in mind, Tang Ao planned on studying the starflower carefully when he had nothing to do. Now, he had to confirm if the saber-toothed tiger was nearby. Chapter 1348. Because the saber-toothed tiger's movement speed was extremely fast, if the saber-toothed tiger was just passing through the forest, it would have already gone far. Therefore, when Tang Ao came to find its tracks, he naturally wouldn't be able to find it. Tang Ao's powerful soul remembrance spread out in all directions, carefully searching for traces in the forest. Not long after, Tang Ao actually found a set of footprints. Tang Ao was sure that these footprints were indeed left by the saber-toothed tiger. From the footprints, Tang Ao could faintly feel that this saber-toothed tiger was in a hurry. There were only two possibilities. Either the saber-toothed tiger was hunting or was being chased. From the slightly messy footprints, Tang Ao was leaning towards the latter. It was just that Tang Ao couldn't figure out who had the ability to chase after the saber-toothed tiger. A demonic beast like the saber-toothed tiger wasn't much in the black-yellow continent. However, in the flying star continent, the saber-toothed tiger was an absolute overlord. A young saber-toothed tiger could reach the third or even the fifth level of the body refining realm. An adult saber-toothed tiger could at least reach the eighth or ninth level of the body refining realm. It was even possible for it to break through to the origin martial realm. This was why everyone was so nervous when they first heard the saber-toothed tiger's roar. Even if there was a beast wave, the damage to Qingyun village wouldn't be as terrifying as if a saber-toothed tiger had entered Qingyun village. If there was a beast wave, as long as the remaining martial artists in Qingyun village could hold on until the Qingyun Alliance's martial artists came to reinforce them, then Qingyun village would be able to hold on. However, if a saber-toothed tiger entered Qingyun village, even the Qingyun Alliance would make Qingyun village immediately abandon the village and flee. Amongst the numerous demonic beasts in Evergreen Valley, the saber-toothed tiger was definitely the overlord of the overlords. After confirming that the saber-toothed tiger was no longer in this area, Tang Ao returned the way he came. Originally, Tang Ao wanted to take a starflower with him. However, after thinking about it, Tang Ao decided not to do so. The starflower was a spiritual herb from the immemorial era. If it died after being brought out of here, then Tang Ao would suffer a huge loss. Right now, only Tang Ao had discovered the star flowers in this forest. So sooner or later, these star flowers would belong to Tang Ao. At this time, Tang Ao still had to lead the 14 village guards to wipe out the demon beasts in Qingyun village, so he had no time to observe the star flower. Therefore, after some consideration, Tang Ao did not take out the star flower. After all, even in this forest, the number of star flowers wasn't a lot. Tang Ao counted carefully. There were only 120 star flowers in the entire forest. To the north of Qingyun village, Situ Qianqian and her group looked anxiously at the forest in the distance. Just now, the roar of the saber-toothed tiger came from that forest. Then, Tang Ao rushed directly to that forest. Now that so much time had passed, Tang Ao had yet to come out. Everyone was a little worried that something might have happened to Tang Ao. After all, in everyone's eyes, Tang Ao had always been a daring guy. Therefore, this time, they were also worried that Tang Ao would recklessly come into contact with the saber-toothed tiger and die under its claws without knowing why. Previously, when facing the venomous feathered beast and the striped leopard, Tang Ao always took the lead and rushed forward. Therefore, this time, it was not entirely impossible that Tang Ao would die under the claws of the saber-toothed tiger. However, at this time, everyone had a good impression of Tang Ao, so they still hoped that Tang Ao would not die. Chapter 1349. Village Chief Tang Ao is really lucky to be able to escape unscathed under the claws of the saber-toothed tiger. That's true. I heard that Tang Ao dealt with the venomous feathered beast and the striped leopard alone. Not only is he lucky, but he's also strong. Big brother Tang Ao doesn't look very old. He's about the same age as us. I didn't expect him to be so strong. What's there to compare with us? In the dragon-subduing caves, we are the martial artists with the worst talent. It's normal for him to only be at the first level of the body, refining realm. No matter where it was, there would never be a lack of people who disagreed. After this person finished speaking, he saw the disdainful expressions of the people around him and immediately continued. Although Tang Ao is not bad, this is only in Qingyun village. If he was in the Qingyun Union, this talent really doesn't count for much. In the Qingyun Union, not to mention the 5th level of the body refining realm, even the 6th level of the body refining realm is a dime a dozen. And if we had the cultivation resources like there's every month, I might be an expert at the 6th or 7th level of the body refining realm now. Hu Tian, look at what you're capable of. You don't even blush when you spout nonsense. Don't tell me your face is also a spiritual treasure. Hu Tian had always liked to spout nonsense. As a fellow village guard, they were very familiar with Hu Tian's personality, so they opened their mouths to mock him. What do you mortals know? Hu Tian said indifferently, and then ignored the crowd. At this time, Tang Ao also walked over. After seeing Tang Ao come over, everyone immediately turned to look at Tang Ao. Although the saber-toothed tiger had only let out one roar, everyone present had heard it. Therefore, everyone was sure that there was a saber-toothed tiger in the forest. Therefore, at this moment when Tang Ao came over, everyone looked nervously at Tang Ao. Clearly, they wanted to hear news of the saber-toothed tiger from Tang Ao. The saber-toothed tiger seemed to be chasing its prey. I saw its footprints in the forest heading northwest. It's no longer here. After that, Tang Ao continued. Now we'll search from the north side of the village and the south side of the village. Once you encounter any demonic beasts, immediately send a signal, and we will rush over to support you immediately. Understood? Understood. If Tang Ao asked them to face the demonic beasts alone, then these village guards would really feel very guilty. This was because among the 14 village guards here, only 2 had reached the second level of the body, refining realm. The rest were only at the first level of the body, refining realm. Honestly speaking, a martial artist at the first level of the body, refining realm, was not much stronger than a normal person. Most of the time, he relied on his identity as a martial artist to display his abilities. After Tang Ao gave the order, everyone immediately dispersed. This time, the beast tide had erupted from the northwest side of the village. Therefore, this was the area that suffered the most damage. At the same time, this was also the area with the most remaining demonic beasts. This time, Tang Ao walked alone in Qinyan village. The limestone path of Qinyan village had already been dyed red with fresh blood. Logically speaking, this area had the most villagers killed. However, Lin, who did not immediately bring people here to clean up the corpses of the victims. Tang Ao knew that this was not because Lin was afraid of the remaining demonic beasts, but because there was no longer a need to do so. This was because every time a beast tide erupted, the demonic beasts would be incomparably hungry and savage. Therefore, after the demonic beast tide broke through Qinyan village, many people in this area had entered the stomachs of the demonic beasts. Some of them bore the brunt of the demonic beast attacks and were trampled into meat paste by the stronger demonic beasts. Therefore, even though this area had the most victims, Tang Ao really did not find any corpses of the villagers who had died here. Chapter 1350. Therefore, Tang Ao had to be more careful. After Tang Ao's soul remembrance expanded to this range, the remaining 14 village guards and Situ Qianqian were all within the range of Tang Ao's soul remembrance. Seeing that these people were carefully searching the ruins to see if there were any remaining demons, Tang Ao nodded his head in satisfaction. If there were still people trying to be slippery in this situation, it would be too much. Just as Tang Ao passed through a small alley and was about to continue advancing, a venomous liquid suddenly flew towards Tang Ao's throat. Tang Ao dodged to the side and scanned with his soul remembrance to find the fellow that sneak attacked him. Indeed, as Tang Ao expected, there were still some poisonous snakes in Qinyan village. Currently, the one in front of Tang Ao was a double-headed snake. At this moment, when the double-headed snake stood up, it was even taller than Tang Ao. However, even so, Tang Ao wasn't afraid at all. Poisonous snakes were powerful in their silent movements and fatal venom. If it was a face-to-face battle, a poisonous snake of the same realm wouldn't be as powerful as a martial artist. Of course, if a martial artist was afraid, then it was a different story. However, at this moment, Tang Ao didn't have any intention of being afraid. A silver light flashed in his hand as Tang Ao summoned his 100 battle spear soul. The double-headed snake in front of him had a cultivation of the body, refining realm 7th level. Tang Ao didn't dare to be too careless. After all, Tang Ao was only at the body refining realm 5th level. Compared to this fellow, he was still a bit weaker. Moreover, the double-headed snake had the ancient 9-headed snake's bloodline, so it wasn't easy to deal with. Therefore, when facing this double-headed snake, he didn't feel any desire to fight. Instead, he felt a deep sense of seriousness. The ancestors of these demonic beasts with ancient bloodlines were once existences that stood at the top of the food chain. Even though the ancient 9-headed snake's bloodline was very thin, it was still very powerful. However, if Tang Ao underestimated his opponent, it was not impossible for him to fall here. While Tang Ao was fighting with the double-headed snake, another scene appeared in Shi Yunyun's thatched cottage. In this scene, a man and a snake were confronting each other. It was Tang Ao and the double-headed snake. However, Neither Tang Ao nor the double-headed snake knew that someone was spying on them. Xiao Yu stood respectfully beside Shenhuanyan. Master, you seem to be very interested in Tang Ao. Xiao Yu couldn't help but ask because the atmosphere was too heavy. That's right, this Tang Ao is somewhat interesting. Yun didn't conceal anything and simply said a sentence. Moreover, there was nothing wrong with Xiao Yu calling him master. If Tianyun, Chun Nanshi, and the others had a cooperative relationship, then Xiao Yu had a master-disciple relationship. Is there something special about this Tang Ao? Xiao Yu asked curiously. In Xiao Yu's opinion, there wasn't much difference between Tang Ao and other martial artists. As for Tang Ao fighting against the 7th level of the body, refining realm, with his 5th level of body, refining realm cultivation, it wasn't very special. Such an action might be unusual in the eyes of others, but Xiao Yu didn't feel that way. This was because when Xiao Yu was at the 5th level of body refining realm, he had also fought against a 7th level body refining realm demonic beast. Moreover, Xiao Yu had narrowly won. Therefore, when Tang Ao was fighting against the 7th level body refining realm twin-headed snake, Xiao Yu was sure that it would be very good if Tang Ao could keep his life. I can faintly feel the aura of an old man from Tang Ao's body, Shenhuanyan said calmly, while Xiao Yu was thinking. Unlike Chinanshi and the others, Xiao Yu was Shenhuanyan's disciple, so he understood the outside world very well. At the same time, Xiao Yu also knew what kind of existence his master was if he could leave this place. Chapter 1351. Shiyin shook his head. No, Tang Ao has the aura of Underworld Emperor on him. Underworld Emperor has been dead for tens of thousands of years, but Tang Ao still has his aura. This means that Tang Ao is either a descendant of Underworld Emperor or a reincarnation of Underworld Emperor. Hearing this, Xiao Yu was shocked. He obviously knew what Underworld Emperor meant, but he hadn't expected Tang Ao to be related to Underworld Emperor. But I still can't determine whether Tang Ao is a descendant of Underworld Emperor or a reincarnation of Underworld Emperor. If he is a reincarnation of Underworld Emperor, he can still use his Underworld life spirit, even though he is only at the 5th stage of the body, refining realm. If that's the case, I don't mind working with him. After all, this is God King Yunxing's place. Even he can forget about leaving easily. In a small alley in Qingyun village, Tang Ao and the two-headed snake were still facing off. However, many people had already gathered around. 7th great uncle and the other two, as well as Zhong Shan and Lin Hu, had already gathered. No one acted rashly after arriving. Instead, they stared at Tang Ao and the two-headed snake in the middle of the crowd. This time, Tang Ao had no intention of letting anyone go forward to help him deal with the two-headed snake. This snake-type demonic beast was extremely fast. Warriors who were slow or not agile enough would just be sending themselves to their deaths. Moreover, the current Tang Ao was completely different from when he was dealing with the striped leopard. Previously, Tang Ao hadn't been in good condition and had fought hastily, so he didn't have much Yuan Qi left in his body. But now, Tang Ao's body was full of Yuan Qi, and Tang Ao didn't have any external injuries. Even Tang Ao's Jade Bone Life spirit had been slightly restored by the Star Flower's power of stars. Therefore, the current Tang Ao was the strongest Tang Ao had been since he entered the Hidden Dragon Cave. At this time, Tang Ao was confident that he could fight this two-headed snake with an ancient bloodline. As Tang Ao's body emitted a wave of essence, a cyan lotus flower slowly flew out from behind Tang Ao. As soon as the lotus appeared, everyone felt a piercing pain in their eyes. It was as if countless sharp swords were stabbing into their eyes. This lotus was Tang Ao's green lotus sword soul. With a thought from Tang Ao, the green lotus sword flashed and transformed into 7 green lotus swords that floated behind Tang Ao. The second life soul is the azure lotus sword soul. Not bad, not bad. In the thatched cottage, Ting Yun watched Tang Ao release the azure lotus sword soul on the screen and secretly praised him. Tang Ao's first life soul was obviously the 100 battle spear soul in his hand, and Tang Ao's second life soul was the azure lotus sword soul that floated behind Tang Ao. Normally, a martial artist at the third level of the body refining realm should have awakened the third life soul, but Shi Tingyan didn't know if Tang Ao had awakened the third life soul. This snake-type demon beast generally didn't have high intelligence, but this two-headed snake was obviously different. At this time, the two-headed snake suddenly launched an attack at Tang Ao. Tang Ao only heard an explosion. It was the sound of the two-headed snake's thick tail hitting the ground. Then, Tang Ao saw two ferocious fangs biting towards him. Chapter 1352. Although the twin-headed snake was fast, Tang Ao's speed was also not the least bit slower. After dodging the twin-headed snake's attack, Tang Ao's azure lotus sword soul, which had been waiting for a long time, immediately greeted it. The whistling sword chi of the azure lotus sword soul made some of the weaker martial artists in the surroundings unable to open their eyes. But even so, the sharp azure lotus sword soul only scratched the twin-headed snake's huge body, leaving behind a bloody mark. It did not cause any fatal damage to the twin-headed snake. Tang Ao felt very helpless. His current life spirits were really too weak. The azure lotus sword soul was originally a 9th layer life spirit. However, the attack power displayed by the azure lotus sword soul was only equivalent to that of a 7th layer life spirit. If the azure lotus sword soul had the attack power of a 9th layer life spirit, then that attack would have at least caused the twin-headed snake to lose a layer of skin. In the thatched cottage, Shi Yun also revealed a puzzled expression. This was because Shi Yun could clearly sense that the current Tang Ao's life spirit only had the strength of a 7th layer life spirit. Shi Yun was not very clear about other life spirit masters, but coincidentally, there was also an azure lotus sword soul in Shi Yun's life spirit. Therefore, Shi Yun was sure that the life spirit that Tang Ao had summoned at this moment was undoubtedly the azure lotus sword soul. However, Shi Yun still could not figure out why Tang Ao's life spirit had weakened when other people's life spirits became stronger the more they used it. While Shi Yun was still puzzled, Tang Ao and the twin-headed snake once again fought. Under Tang Ao's control, the azure lotus sword soul constantly circled around the twin-headed snake and attacked it. From time to time, a rain of blood would appear on the twin-headed snake's body. As for Tang Ao, he raised 100 battle spear soul and clashed head-on with the twin-headed snake. He relied on his incomparably nimble footwork to avoid the twin-headed snake's venom attack. At this moment, the 14 martial artists of the village protection team were already dumbfounded. Previously, when Tang Ao was fighting the poison feather monster and the striped leopard, they had not seen it. Therefore, after hearing the legend of Tang Ao, many people thought that it was exaggerated. However, after witnessing the battle between Tang Ao and the two-headed snake, they knew that not only did those stories not exaggerate the truth, but they also lowered Tang Ao's abilities to varying degrees. Village Chief Tang Ao is so amazing. He can actually challenge a 7th level body refining realm demonic beast alone. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed it. But now, Village Chief Tang Ao and the two-headed snake seem to be evenly matched. Should we go and help them? Don't go up there and cause trouble. With our abilities, the most we'll do is eat the poisonous arrows of a two-headed snake and then die. Ha ha! Tang Ao could only smile bitterly as he listened to the conversations of the surrounding cultivators. These people were really big-hearted. They were still in the mood to joke around at such a time. However, there was one point that Tang Ao agreed with. It was enough for them to help him at the side. Once they came up to help, they would really be more of a hindrance. Although it seemed that he and the twin-headed snake were evenly matched, Tang Ao knew that the venom of the twin-headed snake wasn't endless. As long as the twin-headed snake's venom was exhausted, it wouldn't be able to use its venom to attack. In fact, if there weren't so many people here, Tang Ao would have killed the two-headed snake while enduring the venom. Due to the Jade Bone Life Soul, the two-headed snake's venom could not cause much damage to Tang Ao. However, if he did that, it would be too shocking, and Tang Ao would easily be targeted. Therefore, at this moment, Tang Ao was still obediently exhausting the two-headed snake. Moreover, Tang Ao did not care at the beginning. However, just now, Tang Ao suddenly felt like he was being spied on. Chapter 1353. Thousand Ghost Soul Lock. Originally, Tang Ao wanted to exhaust the two-headed snake, but now that there was someone secretly watching him, continuing to fight would only expose more of his trump cards. Therefore, Tang Ao made a prompt decision and prepared to kill the two-headed snake like a storm. Tang Ao's aura suddenly changed, and the 7 shining green lotus swords instantly returned to Tang Ao's side. Then everyone saw Tang Ao's body suddenly fly into the air, and immediately a surge of vast yuan qi was injected by Tang Ao into the green lotus sword soul. With the supplement of this powerful yuan qi, the green lotus sword soul was also trembling. Tang Ao could even feel the surging battle intent and excitement of the green lotus sword soul. Obviously, during the time when Tang Ao was injured, the green lotus sword soul had been suppressed for too long. Now that it had such an abundant yuan qi, the green lotus sword soul also wanted to explode to express its depression. The two-headed snake was indeed a monster with the ancient nine-headed snake's bloodline. As soon as Tang Ao began to gather yuan qi, the two-headed snake felt threatened. Therefore, almost without any hesitation, the two-headed snake's thick tail suddenly hit the ground. With an explosive sound, it broke free from 1,000 ghost soul lock that Tang Ao had locked it. After getting free, the two-headed snake immediately fled into the distance. If it and Tang Ao were to fight head-on, Tang Ao really did not have much confidence that he could kill it with one blow. But now that it dared to turn its back to Tang Ao, it could not blame Tang Ao for not being polite. The moment the green lotus sword's aura gathered to the peak, Tang Ao suddenly pointed his right hand at the flying two-headed snake and shouted, "7 killing divine path, go." All of a sudden, 7 streaks of green light streaked across the sky like meteors, incomparably gorgeous. But under this beauty, there was a terrifying power hidden. The extremely bright green light flashed, and when it reappeared, it was already behind the two-headed snake. After sensing the lethal wave behind it, the twin-headed snake fled even more desperately. However, its speed was still not as fast as the green lotus sword that had executed the 7 slaughter sage path. With the sound of sharp blades piercing into flesh, the double-headed snake that was flying in the air was nailed to the ground by the 7 azure lotus swords. The 7 inches of the 2 snake heads were sliced off by the green lotus sword. There was not even a whimper. The body-refining realm-level 7 two-headed snake was instantly killed by Tang Ao in one move. Even though they had seen it with their own eyes, they were still in a daze. Especially Zhongshan, Lin Hu, and the others. They were speechless. That was because Tang Ao was too abnormal. Ever since Tang Ao came to Qingyun village, Tang Ao's every move was stronger than the last. The first time he dealt with the venomous winged beast, Tang Ao had trembled for a long time. Later, when he fought with the striped leopard, he actually returned unscathed under the pursuit of the striped leopard. This time, when fighting with the two-headed snake, Zhongshan, Lin Hu, and the others originally wanted to help, but they were stopped by Tang Ao. Now, after a huge battle, Tang Ao had single-handedly killed the two-headed snake. Want to know that right now, Tang Ao was only at the body refining realm level 5. If Tang Ao's cultivation was a little higher, wouldn't it be amazing? With village chief Tang Ao's shocking battle power, among the entire Qingyun Union's younger generation, I'm afraid only young master Ho Tianxi can compete with him. Ho Tianxi? TSK. I heard that not long ago. Ho Tianxi was defeated by village chief Tang Ao. Brother, you can't say such things. You have to know that young Master Ho Tianxi has been invincible in the same realm since he started out. And young Master Ho Tianxi should have long broken through to the body refining realm level 6. How could it not be a match for Village Chief Tang Ao? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.